Douluo, destroying Yu Xiaogang, I'm invincible. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126. Oscar is going to be beaten? Tang San has now become a cross-dressing man who speaks in a clip-shaped voice. If he is paired with an Invincible, his pectoral muscles will become exaggerated and the taste will be right. But, after careful consideration, Zhang Tianyu temporarily gave up this idea. Because, tip, congratulations. Better, you deserve better treatment. Mission completed. Obtained mission reward, soul level +1, reward points +300. The mission has been completed. There is no need to add more rigid ingredients. If it is for fun, then there is no need, because now Xiao Yulan and the other two have already known the method to crack Invincible. Although the memory of being cheated has faded, but the method of cracking the cheating props that have been cracked will not be forgotten. When encountering the same type of cheating props, the memory of the cracking method will be temporarily activated. So if it was really used on Tang San, I'm afraid that the effect of Invincible would be broken just after it started, before Tang San could go further to social death, which would be equivalent to wasting reward points. Another point is that Zhang Tianyu has finally broken through the level 50 barrier. He has reached level 50, so how far will level 60 be? It is estimated that the reward for the next task will be the powerful 5th soul skill. After the soul fighting, everyone quickly left the soul fighting field. Outside the soul fighting field, everyone came to a secluded place to gather. Yu Xiaogang asked Tang San with a serious look, "Tell me truthfully what you did and where you went this day." Although Tang San didn't know why Yu Xiaogang asked him this, he still told him what he did today in a coquettish voice. "I was practicing in the morning, and I went to buy clothes in the afternoon, because my clothes were torn during the previous soul fighting." Everyone really got goosebumps all over their bodies. "Can you please be nice?" Flanders waved his hand and stopped talking halfway. Tang San might have a problem with his brain now. He didn't realize that he was wearing strange clothes and speaking in a disgusting tone. "So where did you go to buy clothes?" Yu Xiaogang continued to ask. "It's on the 3rd street. There are many stores selling clothes there next time. Teacher can." "Okay, shut up." Yu Xiaogang raised his hand to interrupt him. "Just answer what I ask you. Don't say anything extra." "Okay," Tang San said, a little aggrieved. Yu Xiaogang asked, "Which stores are they specifically?" "This I can't tell you for a while, because there are too many stores selling clothes there, but after I go there, I can still recognize which stores they are," Tang San said seriously. "When you were buying clothes, did the store owners behave strangely or say something strange?" Yu Xiaogang asked. Tang San thought for a while and said, "It seems that there is indeed such a thing. Almost every store owner asked me if I wanted to buy clothes for my girlfriend." "What a joke. I don't have a girlfriend." "Besides that?" Flanders asked. "Also," Tang San said as he recalled, "when I tried on those clothes, the store owners would look at me with very strange eyes, which made me very embarrassed." "Okay, you don't have to say anything." Yu Xiaogang raised his hand and then looked at each other with everyone for a while. Then Yu Xiaogang said, "Tang San, go over there and wait for a while. We have something to talk about." "Oh, okay." Tang San left obediently. Yu Xiaogang looked at his back from afar and whispered, "It seems that he had become strange when he went to buy clothes." So did he become strange when he was buying clothes, or did he become strange before he bought clothes? Flanders asked. Yu Xiaogang frowned and shook his head. "For this question, we have to go to those shops tomorrow to have a look and ask. What do you think?" Flanders asked. "Do you suspect that some of those shop owners have secretly done something bad to Tang San?" "This is very likely," Yu Xiaogang said. "So tomorrow we have to go and have a look and investigate. I have some doubts whether Tang San has been poisoned." Everyone was speechless. Poison? What kind of poison would make a man like to wear women's clothes and speak in a clipped tone? The most important thing is that he doesn't realize that he is abnormal. Judging from the scene of the fighting spirit tonight, Tang San's strength and combat power are no different from usual. In other words, his body does not seem to have suffered any damage. So the question is, what kind of poison can turn a person into a clip-tone cross-dresser without hurting the person's body? And what kind of boring person would do such a boring thing? Let's leave it at that for tonight, Yu Xiaogang said with a bit of a headache. We have no idea about our San's situation and we are helpless, so we can only start investigating from various suspicious places. Everyone nodded. Indeed, this is the only way now. Anyway, it is impossible to just watch Tang San become so weird and do nothing. San, come here. Click, click. Tang San came over in high heels, twisting and turning. Teacher, what's the matter? Yu Xiaogang said, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, we will come to find you. You take us to the third block, and show us all the stores you visited yesterday. Okay, teacher, okay. Go back and rest. Back to the hotel room, Oscar and Zhang Tianyu looked at Tang San clumsily taking off his skirt, all with a look of pain on their faces. Alas, how could he run into such a weird thing? While Tang San was washing up, Oscar asked in a low voice, Tianyu, do you think San's interests and hobbies have changed? Zhang Tianyu was stunned. What do you mean? I mean, Oscar lowered his voice even lower, will San become like Fatty, and no longer like women? Zhang Tianyu raised his eyebrows. What you said? I didn't see him have much interest in women before. He just stayed there practicing all day. Oscar said, but he was still a man before. But now? Oh, I see. Zhang Tianyu looked at him and said, are you worried about being bullied? Yes. Oscar whispered. Hey, this is a good idea. Zhang Tianyu smiled in his heart and then said, don't worry, no, Xiao Wu, San and I almost grew up together. After so many years, I know what kind of person San is. Chapter 127. Is Oscar back to normal? Oscar finally breathed a sigh of relief after hearing Zhang Tianyu's assurance. At this time, Zhang Tianyu suddenly asked, hey, you didn't shave today, did you? Oscar was stunned and said, no, don't you have the Black Death key of your martial soul? Why would I shave? But the problem is, Zhang Tianyu widened his eyes in surprise, when you went to team up with Leo Day today, I forgot to inject the Black Death key into your body. Oscar was stunned. His expression quickly changed from confusion to joy and ecstasy, and then he asked hurriedly, what about now? Have you used your martial soul to release the Black Death aura to affect me? Zhang Tianyu raised his hand, and Huang Quan appeared from behind him, and then a layer of Black Death aura appeared around him. Zhang Tianyu waved his hand again, and all the black air was absorbed back into the sword by Huang Quan. Then the two of them stopped talking, and dared not make any sound. They all stared at Oscar's body nervously. 1 second passed, 5 seconds passed, and half a minute passed. The two of them kept this posture of not daring to breathe and paying close attention, but Oscar's body did not change at all. Oscar's expression gradually became distorted by ecstasy. His body was not affected by the Black Death aura, and half a minute passed, and the hair on his face did not grow as fast as before. Afterwards, Tang San walked out of the bathroom and saw the two men standing still, staring at Oscar's body. Tang San asked with a strange look on his face, huh? What happened? What are you doing? Shh. Zhang Tianyu made a gesture to keep quiet. Tang San didn't understand and walked to Zhang Tianyu. He first looked at Zhang Tianyu strangely, then tilted his head and looked at Oscar with Zhang Tianyu. Although he didn't know what happened, people have a herd mentality. Tang San had finished washing up and had nothing else to do, so he simply followed and watched, although he didn't know why he should watch. Soon, 2 minutes passed, then 5 minutes passed. Just when Tang San, who was tilting his head, felt a little pain in his neck, Oscar suddenly shouted, yeah. Oh yeah. I'm fine. I'm fine. Ha 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 ha. This shout was very loud, no less than the scream he made when he was awakened by a nightmare. Dame Yu Bei, Mahanjan and the 3 Shrek beauties in the next room were instantly awakened. Dame Yu Bei and Mahanjan ran over first. What's the matter? What happened? Xiao, keep your voice down. Do you know what time it is now? Doing this will cause trouble to other guests. At this time, the girls also came to the door. Xiao Wu asked Zhang Tianyu, what's wrong with Oscar? Did he have a nightmare again? No. Zhang Tianyu's face was also full of joy. Oscar's problem seems to have been cured. The three Shrek beauties were stunned. Xiao Wu asked, "What do you mean?" Ning Rangrang asked, "Could it be that Oscar's crazy hair growth problem has been cured without medicine?" "That's right." Zhang Tianyu said, "I just took back the influence of Huang Quan's Black Death energy on him. Now 5 minutes have passed, and his hair has not grown like before." At this time, Oscar also told Dame Yu Bei and others the good news in the house. Everyone immediately congratulated Oscar. This is a good thing, a great thing. These days, Oscar must rely on Huang Quan's Black Death energy to suppress hair growth, otherwise he will become a hairy monster in a short time. But that is the Black Death energy, the breath of death, which can damage and corrode life energy, reduce lifespan, and destroy the body. After being affected by the Black Death energy for a long time, Oscar's face is as pale as paper, his eyes are dark, his body is thin, and his spirit is depressed. The whole person is no longer the same as the young man in the prime of life before, just like a pale zombie. And now, his hair is no longer growing wildly, which means that he will no longer have to rely on the Black Death energy to suppress it in the future. Congratulations, Xiao. Yes, yes, yes. This is a great event. A great event. Zhang Tianyu breathed a sigh of relief. Good, good. Finally, we don't have to accept Huang Quan's Black Death energy anymore. You don't know, I worry every day that you will be killed by my Huang Quan one day, then I will feel guilty for the rest of my life. Don't say that, Tianyu. I still have to thank you for your help these days. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I wouldn't be alive today. Oscar said excitedly. Today is too late. Tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll treat you. Everyone chatted happily for a few more sentences, and then went back to their rooms to rest. Zhang Tianyu said, "Okay, now I can finally sleep well." Yeah, ha ha ha. Oscar's body has returned to normal, and he is now very happy, and the smile on his face has never disappeared. Zhang Tianyu looked at him, and his face was also full of smiles. And like Oscar, his smile was also from the bottom of his heart. The reason was very simple. Although Oscar's hair growth rate returned to normal, his body had been eroded by the Black Death energy for such a long time, and irreversible damage had already occurred inside. As for what kind of damage, hehehe, Oscar will know soon. To celebrate my body returning to normal, tonight, I'm going out to have a good time tonight, Oscar said excitedly. Are you sure? Zhang Tianyu asked. I think I should have a good rest. No, Oscar said, I must go, I'm almost suffocating. After that, he went straight to Dame Yu Bei's room next door. The three old hooligans finally got together, left the hotel overnight, and went out to have fun. Go, go, go. You will know how cruel reality is when you go. Looking at Oscar's excited back, although Tang San was happy for him, he felt a little lost in his heart. Alas, Xiao's problem has been cured, but when can my problem be cured? I still have no hair on my body now. Zhang Tianyu was very considerate. He saw the loneliness in Tang San's expression and said, Asan, don't worry. Your symptoms and Xiao's symptoms appeared at about the same time. I guess you will recover soon. No way. Tang San just doesn't grow hair, but his body is very healthy, so Zhang Tianyu will not end the effect of his props. And Oscar has to end it. If he absorbs the Black Death energy again, I'm afraid Oscar won't be able to survive until the Xiandao city plot. Hearing Zhang Tianyu's comfort, Tang San smiled. Thank you Tianyu. Zhang Tianyu thought for a while and said, if you don't think it looks good, you can actually go buy a wig and wear it. Tang San's eyes lit up immediately. Wow, good idea. Tianyu is still the smartest. Chapter 128 Twin-tailed Tang San. Tang San was very happy to accept Zhang Tianyu's proposal. Hey, why didn't I think of that? I can just buy a wig and wear it. I'll go buy it tomorrow. Okay, go to bed early. Zhang Tianyu said. Zhang Tianyu lay comfortably on the bed with anticipation and fell asleep soon. Tomorrow, hehe. Tomorrow will be better. That night, Zhang Tianyu slept very comfortably. The next morning, Zhang Tianyu opened his eyes energetically. Tang San was no longer in bed. You don't need to look at the Marauder's map to know that this guy must have gone to the roof to practice. Then, Zhang Tianyu had just finished washing up when he saw Oscar walked in dejectedly, listlessly, with two bigger dark circles under his eyes. "Hey, Xiaogang is back." Zhang Tianyu asked with a smile. "How was it? Did you have a good time last night?" Oscar glanced at him, his eyes full of sad vicissitudes and miserable sorrow. The smile on Zhang Tianyu's face froze, and he quickly asked, What's the matter? Being bullied? Damn, tell your brother, and your brother will help you vent your anger." Oscar's expression changed a few times, and then he suddenly hugged Zhang Tianyu and burst into tears. "Tianyu, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore." Zhang Tianyu was stunned and hurried to comfort him. Don't cry first. Don't cry first. If there is a problem, let's solve it. Don't cry first. Tell me, what's wrong? What do you mean?" Although he was comforted by Zhang Tianyu, Oscar couldn't stop crying. At this time, Dame Yubei and Mahanjan also walked in with a bad look on their faces. Zhang Tianyu quickly asked them, "What's the matter?" Xiaogang was so happy when he went out last night. Why is he like this when he comes back? "Oh, don't mention it." Dame Yubei sighed and sat on the sofa in the room. Xiaoyang's ability in that area is no longer good. Zhang Tianyu was confused. What does that mean? What the hell? Last night, in order to celebrate Xiaoyang's recovery, I called all the top players, but Xiaoyang. At this time, Zhang Tianyu suddenly thought of something, looked at Mahanjan, and asked, "Wait, is the same situation as Leo Ma?" Mahanjan also sighed and sat on the sofa. "Not at all, he just can't bend over." Zhang Tianyu looked incredulous. "What the hell? Is it fake? How the hell can this be fake? How can we joke about such a thing?" Zhang Tianyu looked at Oscar, who was hugging his thigh and crying, and his heart was mixed with mixed feelings for a moment, and he almost laughed out loud. Then Zhang Tianyu said, "Okay, don't cry for now, get up first. Think about it in a positive way. Maybe your body has just recovered and is in a recovery period, so there is a little problem temporarily. It will be fine after some time." This sentence is still effective. Oscar's mood is indeed calmer. Yes, Tianyu is right. Dame Yubei also said, "You are also a young man in the prime of youth. Your body will definitely recover. Anyway, it's better than me," Mahanjan said. Zhang Tianyu glanced at Mahanjan. To be honest, he couldn't understand it a little. The prop he used for Mahanjan at the beginning would only make Mahanjan interested in the exclusive target, so how could he solve it in the roast duck restaurant? Could it be that there is Tang San in the roast duck restaurant? Tang San went to the roast duck restaurant to work part-time at night. No way. Then Tang Heo would have to flatten the roast duck restaurant. Maybe Tang Heo also went there to work part-time. The system suddenly said. Poof. At this moment, Zhang Tianyu really couldn't hold it back. Everyone was startled by his sudden poof. "What's wrong, Tianyu?" "Ahem, it's okay." Zhang Tianyu really tried his best to hold back his laughter and coughed a few more times, saying, "I was accidentally choked by saliva just now." Everyone had no doubts. Dame Yubei and Mahanjan continued to comfort Oscar. Zhang Tianyu cursed in his heart. "Fuck, you almost made me laugh." The system continued to give serious guesses. Maybe Tang Heo also went to work part-time, or went to spend money. Okay. The system is worthy of being an old rotten girl. What the hell are these devilish guesses? After being comforted by everyone, Oscar's mood finally stabilized. At this time, the girls also finished washing and dressing, and came to Zhang Tianyu to have breakfast. After seeing the scene in the room, Xiao Wu's strong curiosity was triggered again. What happened? "It's okay," Zhang Tianyu said. Let's go eat together. You guys go." After saying that, Oscar fell on the bed with no hope in life. Dame Yubei said, "You guys go ahead. Fatty and I have already eaten outside." Zhang Tianyu nodded and patted Oscar on the shoulder before leaving. "Bring him a copy of the Sunflower Manual when you come back," the system said. Poof. The three Shrek beauties. After breakfast, Zhao Yulin and the other two came to the hotel. They had agreed yesterday that they would go to see the shops that Tang San had visited yesterday. After learning that Oscar's hair growth problem had been cured, Zhao Yulin and the other two were relieved. Finally, a problem was solved. However, when they later heard that Oscar had a new problem, the three of them, what the hell is this? Why are there so many problems? Can people still live comfortably and worry free for a few days? Damn. This is really the most annoying class they have ever led. Fortunately, Oscar's problem is also a big problem, but it can be solved. There are many extraordinary people in the Spirit Master world, and there are many Spirit Masters who can solve this kind of problem. So for now, it is the right way to solve Tang San's problem first. Shrek is a team, a whole. Therefore, everyone gathered and headed towards the third block. Soon, Tang San pointed out the first store he went to. The owner was a very ordinary middle-aged woman. There were two young girls working inside. All three were ordinary people. After confirming, Flanders shook his head and said that these people were not suspicious. In the morning, Tang San pointed out all the stores he had visited yesterday. Everyone confirmed that the bosses and staff in the stores were not suspicious. The clue was broken. Yu Xiaogang frowned and thought, if it is not because of these people, then what kind of reason would cause Tang San to have such a problem? Just thinking about it, Tang San had already walked out of a wig shop. At this time, Tang San was wearing a double ponytail wig with bangs and a pink princess dress, which made everyone look confused. Damn. Tang San with twin ponytails. True cross-dressing boss form. Chapter 129 A murder caused by a set of women's clothing? How is it? Does it look good? Pretty? Tang San walked in front of everyone, made a playful move with his hands, and turned around. His pink skirt drew a beautiful arc with his movements, just like a spinning flower fairy. Then everyone said, "You." Although Tang San wore a wig and looked like a little girl at first glance, a closer look showed that he was a man. But not everyone said you. At least Ma Hanjin's eyes were shining. How is it? Talk to me. Am I pretty? Tang San asked while turning around again. It's over. It's over. Tang San has completely become feminine. Feminine for unknown reasons. Yesterday, his dressing style and speaking style became feminine. Today, after wearing a wig and activating the complete form of crossdresser, he looks feminine from the inside out. This situation is not right. Oscar whispered in Zhang Tianyu's ear. How come? It's getting more and more abnormal. Yeah. Daimyu Bei on the side also whispered. Obviously he had received a stronger mental shock than Oscar, so that his voice was trembling. Damn, Arsene is possessed by evil spirits. Xiaogang, do you want to go up and give him a big slap to wake him up? You just saw it now. As early as yesterday, when he appeared in public wearing women's clothes, you should have thought that he was possessed by evil spirits. Sure enough, after Arsene's protagonist haloed and the supporting actor's attention to him also dropped rapidly. Zhang Tianyu whispered, that's definitely not possible. Zhao was confused at the time, and a slap in the face can wake him up. Arsene looks very sober now, but his behavior pattern is abnormal, and a slap in the face is useless. Zhang Tianyu thought to himself that I also wanted to give him a slap in the face, but it would definitely be useless. And if Tang Heo, who was hiding in the dark, saw me slapping Tang San, would he spare me? It looks good. Zhao Wu said. Yes, it looks really good. Ning Rangrang also said. Ah, thank you. Thank you, Tang San said shyly. Yu Oscar and Daimyu Bei were a little stunned. They turned their backs quickly and almost vomited. Yu Xiaogang frowned and asked, who asked you to buy a wig? Me. Zhang Tianyu raised his hand. Swish. Everyone immediately cast strange looks at him. It's like this, Zhang Tianyu explained immediately. After Zhao recovered last night, I saw that Arsene was a little sad, so I comforted him and said that, since Zhao had recovered, he should be able to recover soon. Then I said that, if you really think that baldness is ugly, you can buy a wig to wear. Everyone showed a look of realization, and this sounded correct. Zhang Tianyu continued, my original intention was to let Arsene buy a men's wig like the one he had before. Who knew he would buy such a wig? Well, anyway, this matter was caused by me, and I admit my mistake. Finally, Zhang Tianyu said with an apologetic look. It's not your fault. Zhao Yulin and the other two sighed. There was nothing wrong with what Zhang Tianyu said. If you think baldness is ugly, you can buy a men's wig to wear. Who would have thought that Tang San, a genius, would actually buy a wig with twin ponytails? Exclamation mark. Twin ponytails. Damn. Still with bangs. Oh my god, I'm so beautiful. The boys turned to look at the three Shrek beauties. Alas, this pair of ponytails, bangs, and princess dress, no matter who is on the three Shrek beauties, it is a beautiful scenery. On Tang San. Ah, my eyes. Looking at Tang San, who was exchanging commercial praises with the three Shrek beauties, Zhang Tianyu quietly approached Zhao Yulan and the other two and whispered, Master, Dean, Teacher, what should we do now? Zhao Yulan and the other two looked at each other and then sighed together. I'm so tired, so tired. First, the roof of Zhang Tianyu's dormitory collapsed, almost crushing the most talented student in Shrek's history. Then, Mahanjan's temperament changed drastically, and he lost interest in women. Dame Yubei drank to drown his sorrows because of ZHU's yuking, and then had some unspeakable things with a hotel waiter. Oscar's hair grew wildly because of the problem of absorbing spirit rings. Although this problem has been solved, a new problem has emerged: lack of motivation. Tang San's hair may not grow at all because of the problem of absorbing spirit rings. Now, not only has this problem not been solved, but he has become obsessed with women's clothes, speaks in a clipped voice, and even looks more and more like a woman. These students, one after another, are not worrying. It's still girls who are worrying. We have never seen Tang San's situation before, Yu Xiaogang said here, and suddenly stopped. His eyes suddenly lit up with a light. No. Although they have never seen it, they have heard of it. Douluo. That's right. Douluo, one of the two close elders of the Pope of the Spirit Hall, is a very effeminate man. So, could it be that Douluo came quietly and did something to Tang San that no one else knew about, so that Tang San ended up like this? Yes, it's very likely. After all, Yu Xiaogang knew about that period of history, so he knew very well that there was a lot of grudge between Tang Hao and the Spirit Hall. With this grudge, Douluo had a motive. Thinking of this, Yu Xiaogang suddenly asked Tang San, Xiao-san, have you seen anyone from the Spirit Hall recently? Tang San thought about it and replied, yes. Teacher Yu Xiaogang immediately perked up. Who did you meet? Where? When did you meet him? Tell us quickly. Tang San said, it was just a few days ago, when I went to the Spirit Hall to collect my subsidy. I met Elder Libus from the Spirit Hall. Yu Xiaogang was speechless and asked, not this. Apart from this, have you seen anyone from the Spirit Hall recently? Or have you contacted them? Tang San thought about it carefully and shook his head. No more. I'm fighting spirits and practicing every day. How can I have time to meet anyone from the Spirit Hall? Yu Xiaogang nodded. Although Tang San said he hadn't seen him, his saying that he hadn't seen him didn't mean he really hadn't seen him. After all, Douluo is a titled Douluo. It is very easy for a powerful titled Douluo to disguise himself and approach a little naked guy without attracting attention. Okay, there's nothing else to do. Let's all go back first, Yu Xiaogang said, looking at Tang San. San, during this period of time, unless it is necessary, try not to leave the hotel. Got it, teacher. Chapter 130. Tang Hao, would you like to die? What? So what you mean? It's the Spirit Hall that's behind this? In Flanders' shop. After listening to Yu Xiaogang's analysis, Flanders and Zhao Wuji were both shocked. Yu Xiaogang had an unfathomable expression, as if he had mastered everything, and said seriously, other than that, I can't think of any other possibilities and connections. In our many years of traveling around the continent, except for Douluo, I haven't seen any other man who looks like a woman. Have you heard of anyone else with this style? Flanders and Zhao Wuji shook their heads in unison. Who would be interested in this kind of thing? Then would a titled Douluo really do something to a child? Zhao Wuji asked in disbelief, and he turned a normal boy into something neither male nor female? Yeah. Flanders also thought this was outrageous, and said, are the elders of the Spirit Hall really so boring, and have such bad tastes? People's minds are unpredictable. We don't know that Douluo, so who knows if he has such bad tastes? Yu Xiaogang said, maybe he is just such a person with low tastes. Flanders and Zhao Wuji stopped talking. Yu Xiaogang's guess was not impossible. After all, if all the impossibilities are eliminated, the remaining one, no matter how outrageous it looks, is the truth. Even if we know this is the case, there is nothing we can do. Flanders said a little disappointedly. If it was really Douluo who did it, what could these little guys do? Not to mention that he is an elder of the spirit hall and has a very high status. Not to mention this status, just his strength as a titled Douluo is not something that these soul saints and soul masters can contend with. Yu Xiaogang was silent for a while and said, "Don't worry about this matter, I will find a way." Flanders asked, "What can you think of? Are you going to go to the Pope for this matter?" Yu Xiaogang glanced at him and said, "Don't worry about it, go to bed early." Yu Xiaogang's solution was to tell Tang Heo everything about this matter and let Tang Heo come forward to solve it. Of course, he couldn't find Tang Heo, and he had to wait until Tang Heo took the initiative to find him. To solve a titled Douluo like Douluo, he could only rely on Tang Heo, who was also a titled Douluo. Because the Jianghu function was not opened, Zhang Tianyu didn't know Yu Xiaogang's plan at the moment, but he could probably guess that Yu Xiaogang had probably used his intelligence to solve this matter. After all, when they separated, he had already seen the confidence in Yu Xiaogang's eyes and the pride of solving the puzzle. "Okay, Yu Xiaogang, I hope you will keep up the good work this time and perform well, and won't let me down." As Tang San's biological son, Tang Heo, who had been secretly observing, had naturally noticed Tang San's abnormality. When he saw Tang San wearing women's clothes and making a clip sound, he was already struck by lightning and was confused. After seeing Tang San wearing a wig with double ponytails and bangs today, acting more like a girl, Tang Heo was completely paralyzed. At this moment, his thought was, well, if Tang San is really a daughter, it's not bad. Ahem, of course. Since Tang San is a boy, a son, then he must be a boy, a son. What's the matter with this kind of man and woman? This is absolutely not okay. So, Tang Heo, who lived in Bengbu, came to the door of Flanders' store quietly that afternoon. When Yu Xiaogang, who was on the second floor, saw this familiar figure appear downstairs, he was first frightened and trembled all over, then quickly adjusted his state, thought of a speech, and took the initiative to go downstairs, and found Tang Heo. Tang Heo said nothing, and walked quietly in front. Yu Xiaogang followed him without asking or saying anything. The two of them entered a quiet alley one after the other. Zhang Tianyu immediately became alert. Hey, two grown men went into the alley in broad daylight. What are they doing? Anyway, no matter what they do, just pay attention to hygiene. Tell me, Tang Heo asked in a low voice in the alley, what happened to Xiaosan these days? Yu Xiaogang did not dare to neglect and said quickly, I believe you have also discovered that Xiaosan has had very abnormal conditions these 2 days, and I have some guesses here. As he said that, Yu Xiaogang quickly expressed his guess that Douluo was the real murderer behind the scenes. After hearing the name, Douluo, Tang Heo's body suddenly burst out with evil spirits. At the beginning, Yin was forced to death, and the main messenger was Qiang Sunji, but now Qiang Sunji is dead, so Tang Heo's hatred is almost all concentrated on Juanji Ui. Are you sure he did it? Tang Heo asked in a deep voice. He happened to be away from home these days. After all, he also had his own things to do, and it was impossible for him to stay here every day to watch Tang San's every move. So after confirming that Tang San was safe here, he only came to check on him every now and then. Unexpectedly, during these days, when he was not here, such a big thing actually happened. At this moment, he regretted it very much. If he had been here these days, at least he would have known why Tang San became like this. Hearing Tang Heo's question, Yu Xiaogang looked embarrassed and said, you also know that my strength is very poor. If it was really done by Douluo, he wanted to do it secretly, then we would not be able to detect it at all. So these are just my guesses and inferences, and I have no evidence. Tang Heo glanced at him, and the coldness and murderous aura in his eyes made Yu Xiaogang a little terrified. Take good care of Xiao-san. I will personally check this matter. If it is really that rotten chrysanthemum who did it, I will make him a real rotten chrysanthemum. When dealing with people from the spirit hall, please be careful. Before Yu Xiaogang finished speaking, Tang Heo's figure had disappeared between the roofs. Yu Xiaogang let out a long breath and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Damn, he is worthy of being a titled Douluo. This pressure is really not something that ordinary people can bear. But at least now he doesn't have to worry about being troubled by Tang Heo. He has transferred his hatred target to Douluo. As for whether Douluo will be killed by Tang Heo, or whether Tang Heo will be killed by the spirit hall, that is not something he can consider. Well, actually, if Tang Heo is killed by the spirit hall, it would not be a good thing, because in that case, he can teach Tang San in his own way as he pleases, and even if something goes wrong, he doesn't have to worry about being punished. So Tang Heo, you die. Chapter 131 The 4 Evil Macup Techniques. As time went by, Tang San's symptoms became more and more serious. Now Tang San not only wears women's clothes and wigs, but also starts to wear macup. In addition, he personally visited the 3 Shrek beauties to ask them how to put on macup. In this regard, the 3 Shrek beauties found it difficult to accept at first. After all, teaching boys to put on macup is really a bit difficult to accept and painful. However, seeing Tang San's enthusiasm for learning macup, they selflessly shared some macup skills with him. If someone else tried to get close to girls in this way, Zhang Tianyu would probably think that the other person was trying to pick up girls. But Tang San was definitely not like that. He was becoming more and more feminine from the outside to the inside. If he continued like this, he would probably become the first psychological transgender on Douluo continent one day. At first, Tang San's macup was a bit scary. When Zhang Tianyu first saw him, he thought it was his grandmother who came to see him. But as time went by and the girls taught him carefully, Tang San's macup skills became better and better. The boys of Shrek could only watch with a look of pain as Tang San went further and further on the road of women's clothing. In the end, when Tang San finished his macup and appeared in front of the boys of Shrek, the boys, oh, fuck, is it you, San? Seeing Tang San nod shyly, everyone felt their scalps tingling. This young girl in front of them, with twin ponytails, bangs, big eyes like Carmen, and a cherry mouth. No one could connect this young girl with the bald Tang San before. How is it? Pretty, right? Xiao Wu asked. There is no problem with the macup method we taught, Ning Rangrang said proudly. Zhu King stood aside with a complicated expression on her face. She was not laughing, nor crying. She was not mocking nor annoying. She was cold, but still had a little warmth. So, it was complicated, very complicated. Xiao Wu and Ning Rangrang were very proud, even a little proud. They looked at the beautiful Tang San in front of them, as if they were looking at a work of art they made with their own hands. Pretty. Is this the same person? Mahangjin was excited. With this appearance, she is much better than those mediocre women in the brothel. Damu Bayside. Are they brothers or sisters in the future? Oscar looked confused. Zhang Tianyu sighed. San. Actually I still hope you can return to your normal state before. Hearing this, the originally joyful atmosphere suddenly became heavy. This is our inconsiderate on. Xiao Wu and Ning Rangrang both stuck out their tongues in panic. No, it's not your fault. Even if you don't teach him, someone else will teach him. Zhang Tianyu said, it's Asan who has a problem. He can't recognize and understand his own state. Everyone looked at Tang San. Tang San blinked his big eyes. I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I think it's good now Asan. Zhang Tianyu said, do you think we will hurt you? Tang San was slightly stunned and said without thinking, of course you won't hurt me. Then do you think, if you really have no problems, we will be so sad? Zhang Tianyu asked. Tang San was stunned. Although he always felt that he had no problems, no matter from which angle or aspect, he was very normal, therefore, he didn't understand Zhang Tianyu and others' sad attitude and worry about him. Now Zhang Tianyu said this, and woke up the dreamer with one word, yes. If there really is nothing wrong, why do these classmates and comrades say that he has a problem? These people can't be looking for trouble and saying that there is a problem when there is no problem. So what is the problem? Why can't he notice the existence of the problem? So, what's wrong with me? Tang San asked cautiously. Everyone was a little speechless. Zhang Tianyu sighed and said, we told you, but you obviously didn't listen, or, you obviously didn't care. Of course, it is also possible that you didn't notice it. Or deliberately didn't notice it? Ning Rangrang said. Zhang Tianyu shrugged. Tang San said, I didn't deliberately not notice it. If you are talking about me wearing women's clothes. In my opinion, I didn't wear women's clothes. I was wearing ordinary clothes. What's the matter with being able to learn Macup from girls? Damu Bei asked. Ah. Tang San was confused. When did I learn Macup from girls? Everyone. Then why are you looking for us? Xiao Wu asked. I'm looking for you to discuss cultivation matters. Tang San said. Ning Rangrang took out a mirror and looked at Tang San. Look at yourself. Don't tell me you can't see that you are wearing Macup. Tang San looked left and right in the mirror and said, I'm not wearing Macup. Now everyone was really speechless. You can never wake up a person who pretends to be asleep. This sentence is really an eternal truth. It's good that you like it. We won't say more. Damu Bei shook his head, sighed, and was speechless. At this time, Zhang Tianyu asked Xiao Wu and others, when Arsene came to you, did he say anything about discussing cultivation? The three beauties of Shrek shook their heads. Xiao Wu said, if he really came to us to discuss cultivation, how could we teach him to put on Macup? Ning Rangrang said, if it is really to discuss cultivation, how could he learn if we teach him to put on Macup? Zhu Xiaogang said coldly, he is not a fool. Hey, what you said is wrong. How do you know he is not a fool? Okay, let's stop discussing this issue here. Zhang Tianyu looked tired at the moment, then looked at Tang San and said, Arsene, let's not talk about anything else. We are all classmates and comrades in arms. No matter what weird hobbies you have, we just need to keep a normal mind. Yes, Damu Bei also said, as long as you don't do anything that harms the world. Also, don't hurt yourself, just do whatever you want. Oscar said. Tang San was not moved, but confused. What on earth are these people talking about? But to be honest, this women's clothing is beautiful. Mahanjan suddenly said. Everyone looked at him in unison. Ahem. Just said it casually. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 132. Oh my god, have you ever been benched? Zhang Tianyu looked at Mahanjan deeply. Women's clothes are good looking? Okay. Since you think women's clothes are good looking, I'll give you one too. But he quickly gave up the idea. Because according to the plan, it's time to trick himself next. Since he entered school, almost everyone in Shrek, especially the boys, has been tricked, and Tang San Oscar has been tricked more than once or twice. At present, only he has not experienced any bad things. Although the memory of the experience of being tricked in the past has faded in everyone's mind, but for the sake of safety, he still has to be consistent with everyone. After all, Shrek is a team, a whole. So how should I trick myself? Just thinking about it. Hint. Received the task. In this life, I must be careful and survive to the end. Task goal. Trick yourself. No limit on the method. No limit on the means. No choice of consequences. But it's best not to trick yourself to death. Task reward. 5th soul ring. A random soul guide or a random soul bone. Reward points plus 1000. 6. System. You are finally generous. The rewards for the tasks that tricked me in my previous life were not so generous. Well, then the question is, what method should I use to trick myself? The method in my previous life must not be used anymore. I have to do something new. So, it is decided that you are the one. Hint, used successfully. That night, at the gate of the Fighting Spirit Arena, seeing Tang San wearing Macup, the expressions of Zhao Yulan and the other two suddenly became very exciting. Damn, Tang San's condition is getting worse. What can I do? Especially Yu Xiaogang. His palms are sweating now. Fortunately, Tang Heo left here and went to the Wuhan Hall to find Douluo. Otherwise, if Tang Heo saw his son wearing Macup like this, he would probably go crazy on the spot. Tang San, you. Flanders was about to say something, but Damu Bei had already pulled him aside and explained the situation. After listening to Damu Bei's explanation, Flanders was really annoyed. Damn, what the hell is this? Wearing women's clothes, wigs and hairpins is not enough. He even learned to put on makeup, and he thought he was discussing cultivation? The world is so amazing. Dean, we don't know whether he is unaware of it or he is pretending. So what should we do now? Flanders was silent. You ask me, who should I ask? Yu Xiaogang was so worried. He was planning to let the Shrek people form a team to play the team competition, but now Tang San is like this. What's the point of playing? When people see it, they are like, WTF, there is such a pervert in the Shrek team. Oh, it's really exciting. No, it's really disgusting. In the whole Soto City, the only thing related to Shrek is their Shrek Academy. When they go on the court, everyone can't help but associate Shrek Academy with the Shrek team. If Tang San is really allowed to participate in the team battle, then Shrek Academy will lose face. Tell me, what should we do now? At this time, Flanders asked Yu Xiaogang in a low voice, don't you want to form a team and fight a team battle? How do we form a team in this situation? How do we fight? Yu Xiaogang thought about it and said, the team should be formed. At worst, we can't let Tang San play for now. If Tang San is not allowed to play, there will be exactly 7 people. Are you kidding? Flanders frowned. Tang San is the only control type soul master here. If he is not allowed to play, how can we fight other teams without control type soul masters? Yu Xiaogang looked at Zhang Tianyu and whispered, Tianyu can also be regarded as half a control type soul master, and he happens to be the backbone of the team. If Tang San is not allowed to play, there will be no big problem. Flanders sighed, okay, just think about it, and make the decision. Yu Xiaogang nodded, called everyone together, and announced the matter of forming a team, to fight a team battle. Are we going to have a team battle? Everyone had a complex expression of excitement and anticipation, but also a little bit of annoyance. The excitement and anticipation, of course, is that they can finally have a team battle. Team battles are different from single challenges and team battles. They are more of a test of skills, and can hone strength. The annoyance is Tang San's problem. Tang San is a control type spirit master. If there is a team battle, he must go on the field. But how can he go on the field in this state? Will he be laughed at to death if he goes on the field? But not everyone can be as indifferent as Mahanjan, because Mahanjan has an inexplicable feeling for Tang San. He can not care, but others can't. Well, the team battle is indispensable, because the future Spirit Master competition will mainly test team cooperation. If you don't play a team battle, you can't participate in the future Spirit Master competition. After a pause, Yu Xiaogang continued, I know what you are thinking. In the team battles of the next few days, Tang San will not go on the field. Let Mahanjan temporarily replace Tang San's position. Everyone was stunned. This is a good thing. But Master, Arson is the only control type spirit master in the team. Is it okay if he doesn't play? Damu Bei asked. Yes, teacher, why don't you let him play? Tang San looked puzzled. Everyone, listen to your tone of voice. Think about why you are not allowed to play. Good guy, bring a sissy dressed as a woman to play. Won't the opponent laugh at you to death? It's so embarrassing. What's the point of playing? Yu Xiaogang said, Xiao-san, your physical condition is not normal recently, so you don't play for the time being. As for the control type spirit master, Tianyu, you should be able to do it, right? Zhang Tianyu was stunned. Me. I may not be able to do it. Men can't say no. Damu Bei said, NMD. Zhang Tianyu glanced at him. I have seen your spirit skills. Without using the 4th spirit skill, your first 3 spirit skills have very good lethality. The most important thing is your speed, Yu Xiaogang said. In addition to your fast speed, your spirit skills have a wide range of attack. These two combined can be regarded as a semi-control type. Zhang Tianyu thought about it and said, why don't you consider letting Arson play? After all, everyone has their own expertise. Yu Xiaogang shook his head. Xiao-san's current state is not suitable for playing. Tang San was a little unconvinced. He felt that he had no problem. Why couldn't he play? But there was no way. Yu Xiaogang was his teacher. He had to listen to whatever the teacher said. Then I'll try. Zhang Tianyu seemed a little embarrassed, but he laughed in his heart. Control? That's not easy. Why not take this opportunity to let Tang San sit on the bench forever? Chapter 133. If the system can transform. If a protagonist has no adventures, no halo, no girls, and even no chance to appear, will he still be the protagonist? If the protagonist does not have these things, what is the difference between him and the supporting role or the extra? Zhang Tianyu felt more and more that it seemed to be a good choice to let Tang San fall from the protagonist to a little transparent person who was almost the same as the supporting role. Times have changed, and the way to cheat people should also change. But these are all later. Now Zhang Tianyu's first thing to do is to cheat himself. If you cheat yourself, you don't need to do anything. As the saying goes, high-end ingredients often only need the simplest cooking method to show their excellent flavor. Similarly, to cheat yourself, you only need to use the simplest and most direct way to express it, and dispel the doubts in other people's subconscious minds. At the same time, you can't die socially. Starting tomorrow, the props will officially take effect. Zhang Tianyu took a deep breath and was mentally prepared. So the question is, why not start tonight? It's very simple. According to the main storyline, after they formed a team and officially joined the team battle, the first team battle opponent tonight was none other than the crazy battle team. Facing this cunning team, Zhang Tianyu had to ensure that his condition was fine. The only pity was that Meng Yiren didn't come. If he could have a good time with Meng Yiren before pitting himself, it would be perfect. However, although Meng Yiren didn't meet them, he met the Ice and Fire twin sisters. That's right. Tonight I don't know if it was fate that the opponent of his 2v2 team battle with Xiao Wu was once again matched with the twin sisters Red Moon and Blue Moon. The level of the Ice and Fire sisters increased with the improvement of Zhang Tianyu, so now they also have the strength of level 50, but the system is very sensible to help them disguise their levels, so they are still in the age group of Soul Master like Zhang Tianyu. Except for the loss to Zhang Tianyu and Xiao Wu at that time, the two of them never lost again. Their strong strength, glorious record and gorgeous appearance have won them countless fans. As soon as the host called out their names, the audience erupted in terrifying shouts and cheers like a tsunami. Red Moon, Red Moon, Blue Moon, Blue Moon, Legend, Legend. Zhang Tianyu said in his heart. Poof. The system stopped. Song of Ice and Fire. Song of Ice and Fire. The male audiences below almost shouted themselves hoarse, and each of them shouted until his face was red and his neck was thick, with veins popping out on his forehead, and his blood vessels seemed to be about to burst. You can imagine how excited they were at the moment. Is it that serious? Zhang Tianyu muttered as he looked at the crazy audience around him. It's the idol effect. The system said, it's the same in any era, any world, and any plane. Zhang Tianyu shook his head. On Earth, I really haven't seen many men who would scream so hard for some female stars, but there are many women who are so crazy for male stars. Forgive them. There is no internet in Douluo continent, and they don't see many beauties on weekdays, especially such high quality ones. The system said. Zhang Tianyu shrugged. The system continued. Anyway, Meng Yiren won't be here tonight. Why don't we arrange a silver party for you with the Ice and Fire sisters? Hehe, Ice and Fire 9 heavens. Zhang Tianyu's eyes lit up at first, then he frowned slightly. Or, forget it. Why? Doesn't Hangayu completely meet your aesthetic standards? The system was puzzled. How can I describe it to you? Well, Zhang Tianyu said, it's like the book I drew myself back then. Although my drawings are vivid and not inferior to those of the book masters, and the beauties I drew are also completely in line with my aesthetic standards, I just can't get interested. Then you are really a qualified creator. The system praised. Next, let's invite another group of contestants in this game, Fengwu Jiushan. Hearing the name called out by the host, the whole audience burst into an uproar. The faces of the Ice and Fire sisters showed a playful smile. At this moment, the shouts and cheers of all the audience seemed to be strangled by the throat and stopped for a moment. Fengwu Jiushan. The only defeat of the Ice and Fire sisters since their debut was from this Phoenix dances in the 9 heavens. Unexpectedly, enemies meet again today. It's fate. Hangayu whispered, licking her lips. Sister, please control your expression. Lanayu reminded coldly. Han Gaiu smiled coquettishly. Hey, you little hoof, why are you pretending to be innocent now? Don't think I don't know that you secretly hid in the toilet last night, shouting master while doing little tricks. Lan Ai's face did not change. That's my personal privacy. Besides, you are more presumptuous than me. How can you say that to me? Han Gaiu did not refute, but chuckled. Xiao had already seen the two sisters with graceful figures on the opposite side, and immediately felt jealous. Damn, I met them again. Is there no other opponent arranged for us in this fighting spirit field? Xiao muttered angrily. Zhang Tianyu shrugged. There was nothing he could do. The Ice and Fire sisters had only lost once since their debut, while the two of them had never won before. In terms of their record, it was not surprising that they would meet the Ice and Fire sisters again. I didn't expect it. It's so lucky that we meet again, Han Gaiu said with a smile. Xiao pinched her waist and said, I think it's just the opposite. It's really unfortunate to meet you. The two sisters didn't care about her at all, but just looked at Zhang Tianyu straight. Hey, talk to them and tell them to hold back and not be too presumptuous. Zhang Tianyu said in his heart. They haven't seen you for a long time. They must miss you very much. So now that they see you, they can't help but feel a little excited. This is human nature. The system said. I'm just discussing with you to ask them to be more restrained. Zhang Tianyu said. Okay. The system issued a command. Zhang Tianyu said to the two of them, don't disappoint the fans who are looking forward to your performance. Let's get started. As he spoke, Xiao Wu completed the spirit possession, and Zhang Tianyu also summoned Huangguan. Hong Yu did not answer, but the system suddenly spoke. According to what you mean, if one day in the future, I can transform into a human form, will you not have any interest in me? Zhang Tianyu was stunned after hearing this question. What the hell? What's the connection? Why did he suddenly ask such a weird question? You can still transform into a human form? Do you still have this brutal ability? Zhang Tianyu asked. Will you have any interest in me? Zhang Tianyu was silent. Chapter 134 My hand. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. All the sounds in Zhang Tianyu's ears disappeared, leaving only the system sentence. If I can transform, would you be interested in me? Zhang Tianyu immediately had an answer. If you can transform. The system was immediately full of expectations. Zhang Tianyu continued. Then the first thing you should do is to help me fight. Help me kill those gods and Douluo wills. System. Benbu lives. Benbu lives. After waiting for a long time, I got such an answer. You are really a qualified creator. The system didn't know whether it was a compliment or a teasing this time. Zhang Tianyu was too lazy to talk to her. That's right. A real man should put revenge first. Kill all those who have hurt him, leaving no one behind, and then consider those messy love affairs. My host likes to say one thing and do another. The system muttered. Zhang Tianyu pretended not to hear it. After the system's warning, the sisters really restrained themselves a lot. Although their eyes still seemed to contain thousands of words, they were much more honest in their words. When the fighting began, the two were still no match for Zhang Tianyu. They lost after holding on for a minute without letting up. Zhang Tianyu couldn't help but look at the sisters with new eyes. The sisters didn't let up, but he didn't let up either. The cooperation between the two is now very tacit, and not only is the speed fast, but the reaction ability is also extraordinary. Whether it is the bullet fired by Blue Moon's martial spirit, Azure Rose, or the slash made by Red Moon's martial spirit, Scarlet Queen, they can accurately hit or resist Huangguan, who is not blessed with the speed of the active effect of Infinite Flying Sword. This is very terrifying. So far, among all the people Zhang Tianyu knows, not to mention Tang Heo, a titled Douluo, only Flanders, a soul saint, has the ability to resist a flying sword of ordinary speed. But these two people, disguised and suppressed by the system, only have the strength of Soul Sect. Their speed and reaction ability are comparable to Soul Saint. Outrageous. 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 Ah. My Red Moon. My Blue Moon. My Song of Ice and Fire. Are lost to this damn Feng Wu Jiu Shan again. Damn it. Damn it. Don't lose heart. Don't be discouraged. Song of Ice and Fire. You will always be the best in my heart. Red. Blue. I will always love you. Seeing the two sisters lose, the fans can almost describe it as crying loudly. This group of fans thought that the two sisters would avenge their previous shame this time, but they didn't expect to lose again. And they lost, but they didn't even last a minute. Many fans wanted to see more of the two sisters' heroic figures, but they were eliminated in less than a minute. RNM, give me your money back. I haven't seen enough. It's over. Scam. Fengwu Jiayushan, you are just scams. Are you worthy of our tickets? Are you worthy of us? Give me your money back. Zhang Tianyu was shocked when he heard it. Shit, who was it that shouted scam just now? How did he know that I like to cheat people? No, he knows too much. I have to find that person and kill him. So, do you really not need me to arrange for the sisters to have fun with you tonight? The system asked again. No thanks. Zhang Tianyu thought for a while and said, to be honest, Han Gai's figure really pokes me, but as long as I think that they were drawn from you, my interest is a little extinguished. The system stopped talking. After all, this kind of thing depends on personal willingness and cannot be forced. Team Battle Lounge. Yo. Xiaogang, I heard that you met the sisters again tonight. Damu Bei greeted Zhang Tianyu and Xiao Wu as soon as he saw them coming. Before Zhang Tianyu could speak, Xiao Wu raised her eyebrows. Boss Day, don't mention those two people in front of me. Okay. Damu Bei quickly raised his hands in surrender. When Xiao Wu, Ning Rangrang and Zhu Zuking went to the side to chat quietly, Damu Bei approached Zhang Tianyu and whispered, it seems that you really met them. Yes. Zhang Tianyu nodded. Then do they still call you master now? Damu Bei asked expectantly. Zhang Tianyu looked at him. What's the matter? Do you have any ideas? Damu Bei sighed painfully. It's useless to have ideas. Xiao and I are definitely not their opponents. It's better to call them masters after meeting them. The speaker is unintentional, but the listener is intentional. Damu Bei's words made Zhang Tianyu have a flash of inspiration. Oh, yes. Is it possible to let these two sisters bet with others and then become the masters of others if they win? Most people may not be interested in such a bet, but the two sisters are different. They are of high quality. Well, this can be used as a fun thing to do when you are free in the future. You did call me master, but I didn't respond, Zhang Tianyu said in a low voice. Damu Bei laughed slyly. If you responded, Xiao Wu's fist would be hard. Zhang Tianyu shrugged, looking helpless. At this time, a group of people walked into the lounge, and then a rough voice sounded. Hey, little girl, you look good. Why are you covering your face? Let your brother see. Everyone immediately looked in the direction of the voice with a bad face, and then saw a tall and muscular man, who was the captain of the Crazy War Team, Crazy Rhino. Zhang Tianyu smiled in his heart, as expected. He was waiting here, so he knew that Shrek's first team battle opponent must be the Crazy War Team. Zhu Zuking said coldly, get lost. You are shameless, right? Little girl, do you know who I am? How dare you talk to me like this? As he spoke, Crazy Rhino's big hand was raised. Zhu Zuking did not move, and neither did the others, because they had all sensed the familiar breath of death with icy energy coming from Huangquan. Just as the hand of the Mad Rhino reached in front of Zhu Zuking, everyone felt a flash before their eyes, and a black light flashed from left to right at an extremely fast speed. The Mad Rhino shuddered all over. He felt a cold and numb feeling coming from his right wrist. The next second, his right hand slowly slid down along the neat cut on his wrist, and fell to the ground with a thud. The cut on his wrist had been frozen, so no blood flowed out. At the same time, there were black threads of black hair like silk threads constantly flowing into his body from the wound. Ah, my hand. At this time, the Mad Rhino finally reacted, hugged his right wrist, and began to scream wildly. Chapter 135. Why doesn't he dodge? In the original plot, in addition to Tang San, Yu Xiaogang and Oscar, there are many other people that Zhang Tianyu hates. The most representative ones are Kuangzi, Xinayan and so on. So there is nothing new. Host, you cut off Kuangzi's hand in the last life, and you cut off his hand in this life. The system asked. Zhang Tianyu replied, that's different. I cut off both of his hands in the last life, but I only cut off one hand in this life. So you want to say that you are more merciful in this life? No, I cut off both of his hands in the last life, so he couldn't play, but I only cut off one hand in this life, so he can still play. Dare to cut off my hand? I will kill you. Kuangzi was furious. What did you do? When the other members of the crazy war team saw this scene, they roared one after another, and almost instantly summoned their martial spirits to possess them, and the Shrek people were not to be outdone. In an instant, the entire lounge was filled with manic soul power. Stop! A loud shout with full energy rang out, and then a middle-aged man strode over with several followers. What are you doing? Manager AO. Seeing the newcomers, Kuangzi immediately changed his violent attitude and wailed with a face full of grievance, "Look, I didn't do anything just now. He cut off my hand. This kind of person should be severely punished." Zhang Tianyu sneered, and before he could speak, the other Shrek people immediately started yelling and cursing. Bullshit. It was obviously you who came to find trouble first. You came to tease our companions first, so we are teaching you a lesson. Manager Rao looked at the severed hand on the ground, then at the bloodless wound of Kuangzi, then raised his head and looked at the Shrek people. Did you do this? I did it. So what? Zhang Tianyu stood up, Huang Quan quietly suspended behind him, emitting a faint aura of black death. Not bad. Manager Rao waved his hand. A man wearing a Soul Master's robe and a black mask immediately came up behind him, pointed at the broken hand on the ground, and said to Kuangzi, "Pick it up and connect the two broken parts together." Kuangzi knew that the other party was going to treat him, so he hurriedly did as he was told, picked up the broken part of the broken hand, and tightly fitted it to the broken part of the wrist. A soul ring lit up on the masked man, and a soft energy burst out from the pure white gem in his hand, and shone on the wound of Kuangzi. However, something shocked them. After the treatment, Kuangzi's hand was not connected. As soon as Kuangzi's left hand was released, the broken hand fell to the ground. What's going on? Are you kidding me? Kuangzi looked at the masked man. His expression was a little unfriendly. Do you think I'm kidding you? The masked man didn't tolerate him at all. Okay, then I'll stop here. After saying that, he stood back behind Manager Rao and stopped talking. Kuangzi knew that he had said the wrong thing, and quickly said, "Senior, it's my attitude that's bad. Please help me." Supervisor Rao saw all of this, and said to Zhang Tianyu, "Did you do anything?" Zhang Tianyu sneered and tilted his head and said, "Nothing." Maybe it's because this guy has done too many bad things, so God doesn't want his hand to be taken back. Bullshit. I'm going to kill you, you bastard. Kuangzi had just cursed when he was stopped by Supervisor Rao. "I told you a long time ago not to be so ostentatious, otherwise you will suffer the consequences. Now you know what I mean." Without waiting for Kuangzi to speak, Supervisor Rao looked at Zhang Tianyu again. "I was just teasing her, and it didn't cause any serious consequences, but you cut off her hand. Do you think this is appropriate? Just teasing?" Zhang Tianyu laughed. "Ha ha ha ha, shit, this is actually what a supervisor said? Come on, call your wife over. I'll tease her in public and show you, and let me see how you deal with it. You." Anger suddenly surged on Manager Rao's face. "You are the Shrek team that just registered today, right? It's really the case that the newcomers are pushing the old ones out. The newcomers are so arrogant." "I don't think this is arrogant. I'm talking to you reasonably," Zhang Tianyu said. "The other party is about to tease my companion. Such a big thing is here to tease one of our female companions. What do you think I should do? Just watch. Then you can't just cut off his hand." Spider-Woman said coldly. "Hehe." Zhang Tianyu laughed. "He can dodge. Why doesn't he dodge? Shouldn't he foresee that if he teases others, he will definitely be counter-attacked by others? He doesn't even have this common sense. Do you really think he is the king of kings who no one dares to touch? You." Spider-Woman was speechless after being rebuffed by Zhang Tianyu's twisted logic. Manager Rao said, "At this time, you two teams are opponents today. If there are any grudges, just resolve them on the stage later. But before that," Manager Rao looked at Zhang Tianyu, "you have to let Crazy Rhino take over his hand. That depends on his attitude." Zhang Tianyu sneered. "What do you mean? Do you still want me to beg you?" Crazy Rhino said angrily. "Just wait and see." Even if I only have one hand left, I can beat the snow out of you on the ring later. Oh. So powerful. Okay, then I'll wait and see. After saying that, Zhang Tianyu turned and walked away. The Shrek people followed Zhang Tianyu and left, and sat down on the other side of the lounge. Supervisor Rao looked at Crazy Rhino and shook his head. He had already helped Crazy Rhino to speak out, but Crazy Rhino was still pretending to be stubborn. He had no choice. After all, he also hated Crazy Rhino. But now he also hated Zhang Tianyu a little. Damn, this kid, his words are really choking. Soon, the broadcast notification sounded, and both sides stood up and walked towards the ring aggressively. Everyone, be careful Tianyu, be careful. Tang San, who was dressed in women's clothes, warned worriedly, don't worry. Zhang Tianyu shook his neck and strode onto the ring. Seeing the berserker team on stage, the audience immediately burst into morbid cheers. Kill them. Tear them apart. Cut them into pieces. Fatality. Brutality. There were also some incomprehensible shouts. Both sides are ready. The countdown starts in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Group Battle Spirit. The fourth game begins. With the command of the host and referee, both sides collectively activated their martial spirits and illuminated their soul rings. Zhang Tianyu pinched his sword finger. Huang Quan slowly flew in front of him and vaguely aimed at the mad rhino standing in the front. Haha, this is what you want for fatality. Okay. Then today I will let you see what real fatality is. Chapter 136 Fatality. The crazy rhino spirit possessed him, and he turned into a ferocious rhino. After receiving the help from his companions, he took a big step and rushed towards Zhang Tianyu. Zhang Tianyu still had a mocking smile on his face, and then he suddenly said, be restrained later, don't spit out the food. The Shrek people standing beside him were slightly stunned. Before they could react, Huang Quan turned into a black light and whizzed away. The second and third spirit rings lit up at the same time, and Huang Quan's speed suddenly increased, and in an instant he pierced into the left front leg of the crazy rhino. Before, his right front hoof was chopped off, and now his left front hoof was hit. Under the severe pain, he could no longer keep his balance. Because of inertia, he fell heavily to the ground, and rushed 7 or 8 meters with his face rubbing against the ground, and stopped right in front of Zhang Tianyu. Looking at Zhang Tianyu, who was so close, the rage of the mad rhino had reached its peak. But at this time, Spider-Woman had already seen something wrong, and almost screamed, bring the mad rhino back. Zhang Tianyu glanced at her, and there was still a cold and sarcastic smile on his face, but there was a hint of bright red in his eyes. Fatality. This familiar line made him feel like he was back on Earth. As early as when the mad rhino's right hand was cut off, a part of the Black Death energy entered his body, and now Huang Quan pierced his left arm again, and a large amount of Black Death energy entered again. At this moment, the body of the mad rhino has been completely occupied by the Black Death energy. Huang Quan cannot control the actions and will of others, but he can control the Black Death key. Therefore, the crazy rhino, who was completely occupied by the Black Death key, has now become Huang Quan's puppet. Hehe. Zhang Tianyu sneered and raised his right hand suddenly. The crazy rhino screamed in pain, and the whole person was lifted into the air by a mysterious force. At this moment, everyone was stunned. Damn. What did I see? Zhang Tianyu was actually controlling the body of others in the air. Exclamation mark. Not only all the audience and the crazy war team, but even the other people in Shrek were dumbfounded. Zhang Tianyu actually has such a brutal ability? After the crazy rhino was lifted into the air, Zhang Tianyu pinched the sword in his left hand and pointed it into the void. Huang Quan drilled out from the left arm of the crazy rhino and waved it continuously in the air. Dozens of sword ki flew out, accompanied by the sound of whizzing through the air and shot directly into the body of the crazy rhino. Puff puff. The crazy rhino screamed miserably. His left hand and both legs were cut off by the sword energy. A ferocious color flashed in Zhang Tianyu's eyes. The subsequent sword energy continued to fly. The sound of the sharp blade tearing through the flesh echoed with the heart-wrenching scream of the crazy rhino. In the blink of an eye, the limbs of the crazy rhino were cut into neat slices several centimeters thick by the sharp sword energy, and fell to the ground with blood. This is not over yet. Zhang Tianyu stretched out his hand and Huangquan floated in front of the crazy rhino's head and began to spin rapidly like a windmill. At the same time, Zhang Tianyu's right hand moved slowly, and the crazy rhino's body suspended in the air flew uncontrollably towards the windmill Huangquan. At this time, everyone had foreseen the end of the crazy rhino. Even some timid people were so scared that their faces turned pale, and they dared not look anymore. Spider-Woman screamed wildly, "Quick! Quick! Save him!" But the other members of the crazy war team were so scared that their legs were weak. And it was too late. The head of the mad rhino had already touched the rapidly rotating blade. Kai kai kai. When everything was over, the mad rhino was already everywhere. The smell of blood spread to the entire ring and even the entire audience. Some spectators could no longer bear it and almost vomited. Supervisor Ao, who was watching the fight, was also pale and his heart was pounding. He didn't expect this kid to be so cruel. Fortunately, he didn't provoke him just now, otherwise he might have died in his hands like this. The whole audience was silent. Everyone was so silent that you could hear a pin drop. Only Zhang Tianyu sneered and said, "Fatality? Haha, this is the fatality you want. This is the bloody end you want." Looking around, the spectators who were roaring wildly just now were all like scared little lambs at this moment. Not to mention anyone who dared to speak, not even one person dared to look him in the eye. At this moment, everyone had an indescribable fear of Zhang Tianyu. Unknown is always the most terrifying. It is not surprising that Zhang Tianyu can control his own martial spirit. However, no one can figure out how Zhang Tianyu can control the body of the mad rhino. Why can he lift the mad rhino into the air and cut it into pieces like cutting meat? During the whole process, the mad rhino could not resist? Why is this? If Zhang Tianyu can control anyone's body, then what the hell is the point of playing? In the spectator seats, Zhao Yulin and the other two had cold sweats on their backs. This kid, Zhao Wuji, wiped the sweat from his forehead and was scared. When taking the entrance exam, it was a good thing that Zhang Tianyu showed mercy. Otherwise, he would have turned into meat. How did he do it? Flanders frowned and glanced at Yu Xiaogang. Yu Xiaogang still had a dull expression on his face. After thinking for a while, he shook his head and said, "I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with his mutated martial soul. After all, the mutated martial soul is so magical and weird. Let alone us. I'm afraid even he can't fully understand it." Flanders and Zhao Wuji stopped talking. There is no other possibility except the term mutated martial soul. It's impossible that Zhang Tianyu has practiced some evil magic that can control other people's bodies. Where is that kind of thing on Douluo continent? Are you here to pose? Zhang Tianyu shouted, pulling the thoughts of all the crazy team back to reality. Then they saw the sword energy whistling towards them. At this moment, they were all in chaos. No one could remain calm after seeing their companions being cut into pieces alive. No one could do it. Not to mention them, even the other Shrek people were pale at this moment, and the three Shrek beauties couldn't help but want to vomit. The only one who behaved normally was Tang San. In his previous life, Tang San was an outer sect disciple of the Tang sect. He had helped the Tang sect to deal with countless invaders. He had seen all kinds of deaths of those invaders, including those who turned into smelts, so he had already developed resistance. Therefore, not only did he not think that Zhang Tianyu was cruel and perverted, he even felt that Zhang Tianyu was more friendly. When dealing with enemies who have already destined to die, we should be so decisive and ruthless, eradicating them completely and without mercy. Spider-Woman finally couldn't help but roared, "Wait a minute. We admit it." Before she could say the word lose, a sword energy had already hit her shoulder accurately. Screams arose, and blood gushed out. A new round of bloody ending is about to begin. Chapter 137. Say hello to Crazy Rhino for me. Although the Mad War team has not participated in the soul fighting for a long time, it has already gained a great reputation in the soul fighting arena. The reason is that their style is extremely cruel. Any team that fights against them will be deliberately disabled by them after being defeated, and some are even almost killed. Therefore, today, after seeing the miserable state of the Mad Rhino, no one stood up to accuse Zhang Tianyu or the Shrek team of cruelty, because the Mad War team has always been very cruel. Today, they encountered even more cruel and ruthless people. It can only be said that sooner or later, they will pay for what they have done. The sword energy wrapped in the Black Death energy hit the 6 members of the Mad War team. The Black Death energy controlled their mouths the moment it entered their bodies, making them unable to make any sound. Woo woo woo. Spider-Woman felt her mouth blocked by a mysterious force and immediately understood a little bit. This is the secret of Zhang Tianyu's ability to control the body of the Mad Rhino. It turns out that he cannot directly control other people's bodies. He must attack others before he can use unknown methods to control others. But she knew it was too late. Her mouth was no longer able to speak. Zhang Tianyu did not intend to let them leave alive. Or, even if he did not kill them, he would turn them all into severely disabled or idiots. The Avildoers will be dealt with by the Avildoers. If no one can deal with this berserker team, then Zhang Tianyu does not mind being the Avildoer for once. Don't you like to torture your opponents? Don't you like to beat your opponents to death or disability? Ha 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 ha. You and I hit it off the moment we met, so of course I have to make friends with you in the way you like. I believe you must be very happy now. Zhang Tianyu laughed and said, then turned to look at the Shrek people. Hey everyone, are you here to pose too? The Shrek people were stunned. What a great opportunity. Go and get them. Zhang Tianyu pointed at the berserker team members who had been injured by sword energy and said, these are free-live targets. You can hit them at will, and it won't matter if you beat them to death. Why don't you get started? Old Day, you start. This. Yu Bei was stunned. Before he could react, Zhu Xiaogang rushed out first, followed by Zhao Wu. There must be blood. Zhang Tianyu's voice came into their ears from behind them. At least cut off their arms. Whoever can bring back their ears and noses, I will take her on an air trip for free. She can go anywhere she wants. This bloody speech once again made the whole audience silent. What a terrifying person. He asked for arms, ears, and noses as soon as he opened his mouth. Good guy, are you in anatomy class? To be honest, after hearing Zhang Tianyu's words, Zhu Xiaogang's pupils also trembled. She could attack the enemy, but it was a bit bloody to mess with ears and noses. However, after hearing Zhang Tianyu's reward, Zhu Xiaogang felt motivated again. As long as he met his requirements, she would have a chance to be alone with him. Good. Ning Rangrang was envious. She only regretted that she was an auxiliary soul master and could not charge into battle. However, at this time, Zhang Tianyu looked at her, buff them, and if you perform well, I will take you out to fly. Good. Ning Rangrang's face flashed with joy, and the 7 treasures glazed tower shone generously. Yu Bei and Mahanjan finally took a big step and rushed out at this time. Could it be that Shrek's men can be compared with women? No. It's not for Zhang Tianyu's reward, but that they can't lose to girls. The next second, all of Ning Rangrang's buffs were added to them. Seeing the other party rushing up like a bloodthirsty beast, Spider-Woman's bloodiness of fighting for her life was also aroused. Anyway, it seems that she can't escape death today, so even if she dies, she will not sit and wait for death. The mouth can't speak. She turned around and winked at the Ruai Pan Soul Master, but found that the Ruai Pan Soul Master actually turned around and ran to the edge of the ring. She reacted, that's right. You don't have to admit defeat with your mouth. Just leave the ring and jump off the ring, which is equivalent to admitting defeat. Thinking of this, she immediately gave up the idea of fighting for her life and turned around and ran to the edge of the ring frantically. She had completely lost the confidence that she could win. At this moment, her mouth had been controlled. Who knows if other parts of her body will be controlled next. So now run quickly, admit defeat quickly to save your life, is the right way. However, just after she took 2 steps, her legs suddenly tightened. The next second, her legs felt as heavy as if they were filled with iron essence, and she couldn't even lift them up. Plop. She fell to the ground just like the Mad Rhino just now, and she also used the face break. Then she looked up at the others, and they all fell to the ground like her. The Ruai Pan Soul Master's nose was bleeding. It's over. Her face was pale, and her eyes were full of despair. Zhang Tianyu would never let them escape. He controlled their mouths just now, and now he controlled their legs. Be careful, don't run around. If you run around again, other parts of your body may be out of control. Zhang Tianyu's gloomy voice came, and then the heaviness on her legs disappeared. They understood that Zhang Tianyu wanted them to have a good fight with the Shrek people, so they were not allowed to admit defeat or escape. But they understood it too late. The Shrek people had already rushed to the front. The first round of attacks, such as the Netherworld Stab, Rabbit Leg, White Tiger Fierce Light Wave and Phoenix Fire line, had already arrived. The Ruai Pan Soul Master was hit by the attacks of the two girls first, and spurted out a mouthful of blood on the spot. The White Tiger Fierce Light Wave and Phoenix Fire line hit the two Sheep Soul Masters respectively. Before they could react, the second wave of attacks followed closely. They hadn't even stood up yet, and they were injured by the sword energy before. In the blink of an eye, they could only passively take the beating. Because of the stimulation of Zhang Tianyu, the Shrek people were particularly ruthless this time. They were not ready to hold back like before. Every time they attacked, they wanted to use all their strength to attack the dead spots or weaknesses of the Berserker team. The screams of the Mad Battle team came one after another, and the blood soon dyed the entire ring red. As the extremely shrill screams rang out, 4 people returned to Zhang Tianyu with some bloody things. Zhang Tianyu nodded with satisfaction. Very good. Don't let these things dirty your hands. Throw them on the ground. The bloody things were thrown on the ground, and Zhang Tianyu stepped on them without hesitation. Looking at the people of the Mad Battle team who were breathing out more than breathing in, he asked with a sneer, when you made others either dead or disabled, did you ever think that this day would come? Say hello to Crazy Rhino for me. Zhang Tianyu showed a kind smile, and Huang Quan whizzed away, and flew over the heads of the people of the Mad Battle team. Chapter 138. What happened? A strong smell of blood permeated the silent scene. The originally clean and bright arena was like a cake covered with a layer of ketchup, reflecting the blurred blood red light. So, who won this game? In the silent environment, Zhang Tianyu's voice suddenly sounded. Manager Ao was startled, shrank his neck and said quickly, the winner of this game is the Shrek team. Zhang Tianyu laughed, thank you for your hard work, cleaning staff, bye. After that, he turned around and left the arena with the Shrek people. Looking at the mess on the arena, Manager Ao was in pain all over. I thought the Mad Battle team was the evil star, but I didn't expect that a more ruthless evil star came today. What will happen next? Could it be that every time the Shrek team fights, it will be so bloody and cruel? However, at this moment, someone in the audience suddenly shouted, Shrek is mighty. This shout was like turning on a speaker switch, and many audiences followed suit and shouted, Shrek. Awesome. Shrek is so ruthless and strong. Shrek. Shrek. Manager Ao was startled by the waves of shouting like a tsunami. He looked around and saw that, although many audiences still had fear on their faces, in addition to fear, they also had a more morbid fanaticism. Manager Ao suddenly understood something, and then his eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, this can be the style of the Shrek team. Their style is to end the opponent in this brutal and bloody way, so that they can create topics, create heat, and attract more audiences to consume and watch here. As for whether Shrek would attract many enemies, that was not what Director Ao should be responsible for. Even if they attracted many enemies, the enemies would only seek revenge on them, not on the Douyin arena. Moreover, before they were killed by their enemies, they would definitely create a lot of income for the Douyin arena. It was a good thing that there was income and the Douyin arena would not be implicated. Then he looked at the cleaning staff who were hurriedly cleaning the arena to welcome the next group of opponents. Well, it was a bit wasteful to clean and use water. Just washing the bloodstains. I don't know how much water was used. Today, is our performance a bit too much? Mahanjan asked cautiously. At this moment, Zhang Tianyu in his eyes was completely different from usual. Usually, Zhang Tianyu was a good-tempered and cheerful man who always considered his friends. But today, everyone thought he was actually a devil. Don't you want to become famous? Zhang Tianyu asked. Mahanjan was stunned. Today, our Shrek's reputation has spread. Zhang Tianyu said with a smile. In the future, the teams that will fight against us will have to think about what happened today before fighting with us, and then carefully consider whether they still have the courage to fight with us. This is called momentum deterrence. Ningrangrang said with a smile. It's a taboo to be afraid before the battle. Zhu King said coldly. But if we adopt this style in the future, will it bring us enemies? Oscar asked timidly. Zhang Tianyu asked curiously, who said that we have to adopt this style in the future? Everyone looked at him, and he continued, didn't I say before, that the Mad Battle team is arrogant, insolent, ferocious and brutal? Every team that plays against them will be either killed or disabled by them. So, today I'm doing justice for the heavens, so I will use this method to deal with them. In the future, if the team that plays against us abides by the ethics of martial arts and stops at a certain point, then we must naturally respect each other. Ah, I feel relieved when you say that. Oscar breathed a sigh of relief. Except for Tang San, everyone else also breathed a sigh of relief. To be honest, they were really afraid that Shrek would adopt this style in the future. This style was exciting, but it was too easy to make enemies with others. With so many enemies, they would have to keep an eye on others in the future. TSK, I'm not stupid. Zhang Tianyu said with a smile. Today, we are just using this berserker team to enforce justice and establish our prestige. At this time, everyone had come to the spectator seats. Zhao Yulin and the other two had been waiting there for a long time. Seeing Zhang Tianyu at this moment, except for Yu Xiaogang's expression, that was still dull, Flanders and Zhao Wuji's expressions were a little unnatural. Today's performance was very good. Yu Xiaogang said expressionlessly, you found a very suitable target to establish your prestige. I have just checked the berserker team's network of contacts. They should all be wild soul masters with no big background. Probably no one will come to seek revenge on you. It's this method, ahem, a bit too radical. Flanders said. I don't think so, Dean. Zhang Tianyu said, I think it's time for us to see blood. Soul masters must have blood. We can't become bloodthirsty and brutal wolves, but we can't be docile sheep either. Flanders was about to speak when Yu Xiaogang nodded and said, Tianyu is absolutely right. Seeing blood is the only way for every soul master who wants to become a great one. It's useless to have soul power and soul skills alone. A tough and strong heart is equally important. I think so too. That crazy rhino had already teased ZHU King and made enemies with us. Before we started, for these bastards who have made enemies, we have to kill them all and can't spare them. Zhang Tianyu looked at the two of them. Yu Xiaogang nodded at him with a satisfied look in his eyes, and Tang San said directly, I support you. Zhang Tianyu nodded, very moved. TSK, he didn't expect that the person who agreed with him the most was the person he hated the most. Flanders said, in that case, I won't say much. Let's go back and have a rest. Everyone returned to the hotel. Everyone was still digesting everything that happened tonight. No one spoke that night. The next morning, Oscar was still snoring. There were constant knocks on the door. He got up impatiently and opened the door. He saw the three Shrek beauties standing at the door. He immediately lost most of his sleepiness and asked, what's the matter, you three? Where's Tianyu? Why hasn't he gotten up yet? Ah, no way. At this point he should have. Before he finished speaking, the three Shrek beauties had already rushed into the room and surrounded Zhang Tianyu, who was still lying on the bed. At this moment, Zhang Tianyu's face was pale, his eyes were closed, his brows were furrowed, and his lips were bloodless. He looked abnormal. Tianyu, what's wrong with you? The three Shrek beauties were frightened and shouted one after another. Oscar immediately rushed over and looked at Zhang Tianyu like this. He was stunned. What happened? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 139. Zhang Tianyu is sick. What's wrong with Tianyu? Zhao Wu turned to ask Oscar. Oscar was confused. I don't know. I just woke up. I don't know anything. He was fine when he came back last night. He really didn't know anything. Everything was normal last night. Everyone was talking and laughing. While washing up, he and Tang San praised Zhang Tianyu for his amazing performance last night. Zhang Tianyu also responded kindly that it was all basic operations. As a result, after one night, how come Zhang Tianyu suddenly became like this? At this moment, Zhang Tianyu slowly opened his eyes and said in a very weak and hoarse voice, "What happened? What's going on?" As he spoke, he propped up his arms with some difficulty and sat up. His face became even uglier. Why have I become so weak? Why are my arms weak? What are you talking about? Look at your face now. Ning Rangrang took out a mirror with a worried look on her face and looked at Zhang Tianyu. Sure enough, Zhang Tianyu in the mirror was pale, his lips were bloodless, and his eyes were completely different from his usual bright and energetic look. He looked very weak. What's wrong with me? Zhang Tianyu was a little surprised. Why are you still standing there? Yu Xiaogang looked at Oscar. Oscar just reacted and quickly chanted a spell to summon a sausage. Zhang Tianyu ate it, and his complexion looked better. But I still feel weak all over. Help me. Xiaowu and Ning Rangrang rushed over and held Zhang Tianyu's arms on each side. Oscar made 5 sausages in a row, but if Zhang Tianyu ate them again, it would have no effect. Oscar made a few detoxifying sausages, but Zhang Tianyu didn't react at all after eating them. This shouldn't be poisoning, Oscar said immediately. If it is poisoning, even if my sausages can't detoxify it, at least there will be a neutralization reaction. But Tianyu has no reaction. It is definitely not poisoning. At this time, Dame Yu Bei and Mahanjan also heard the voice here and quickly ran over to check. When they saw Zhang Tianyu like this, they were all stunned. What's going on? What happened? We don't know. Oscar's face turned pale with anxiety. I just woke up. Xiaowu and the others came to look for Tianyu, and they saw that Tianyu became like this. At this time, Dame Yu Bei glanced around and suddenly asked, "Where's Asen? Why can't I see Asen? Asen should be on the roof. He goes to practice every morning." Xiaowu said, "I'll go find Asen." Mahanjan ran out immediately and soon he came back with Tang San. Tang San had heard him say that Zhang Tianyu had a problem, and he almost ran into the door quickly, saying as he ran, get up, let someone help Tianyu." Although he still spoke in a very tight tone at this moment, it was obvious that he was full of impatience. Everyone quickly made way. Tang San came to Zhang Tianyu and began to feel his pulse. "Tianyu, when did you feel unwell?" Zhang Tianyu shook his head weakly. "I don't know. I felt unwell after I woke up." Tang San felt his pulse, and the expression on his face gradually became serious and solemn. "Damn, what happened to Tianyu?" everyone asked anxiously. Tang San's face was solemn. "The situation is not good. Tianyu's pulse feels very weak. There must be something wrong with his body. Is it a disease?" Ning Rangrang asked quickly. "Is it still poisoned?" Xiaowu asked. Tang San looked at Zhang Tianyu and said, "Tianyu, bear with it." After that, he took out a sharp dagger and gently scratched Zhang Tianyu's wrist. Bright red blood flowed out. Tang San took out a small medicine bottle from his belt and poured some medicine powder from it to mix with the blood. After waiting for a while, the color of the blood did not change at all. Tang San said, "In my opinion, it is not poisoning. Of course, it may also be a more peculiar and rare poison that my medicine powder cannot detect, but judging from the color of the blood, the possibility of poisoning is not great. It should be some disease." "What disease could it be?" Xiaowu asked again. Tang San frowned and asked, "Tianyu, how do you feel now? Tell me everything." Zhang Tianyu said weakly, "It's just dizzy, a little dizzy, weak all over, and a little pain in the bones." If there was an earthling here, he would probably say, "Are you Yang?" But how could the people of Douluo know about Yang? So Tang San said, "These symptoms seem like a cold with a fever, but I can't confirm it without authorization. Let's go to the clinic and find a doctor to take a look. Soul masters are always strong. Can they be infected with a cold?" Dame Yu Bei thought it was a bit unbelievable. "So I can't confirm it," Tang San replied. Everyone nodded. The errand boy Mahanjan immediately said, "I'll go find the dean and the others and go to the clinic to find a doctor." Dame Yu Bei said, "You go directly to the dean. I'll find the doctor." Ning Rangrang also stood up immediately. "I'll contact my father." Zhang Tianyu wanted to stop her, but she had already left quickly. Zhang Tianyu naturally couldn't jump up and say, "Don't go, I'm actually pretending." Right? So he could only let her go. Tang San said, "Then I will boil some cold medicine to try it out." don't worry, even if it doesn't work, it won't hurt. Shrek's two beauties and Oscar were a little worried, because last time in the Stardow Great Forest, when Oscar showed symptoms of crazy hair growth, Tang San also gave Oscar some medicine, and Oscar's hair grew faster. So, are you sure it's reliable? Xiao Wu asked a little worriedly. Don't worry, how could I hurt Xiaogang? Oscar. So you will hurt me, right? Soon, Tang San boiled the medicine, and brought it over. Xiao Wu carefully blew it cool and drank it. After taking the medicine, Zhang Xiaogang sweated a little. Tang San asked, how do you feel? Zhang Xiaogang shook his head, same as before. Just at this time, Flanders and the doctor arrived. Seeing Zhang Xiaogang, who was high-spirited and suave last night, turned into this weak look today, Zhao Yulan and the other two were a little confused. What happened? They hurried over to check. The doctor quickly walked to the bedside and began to feel Zhang Xiaogan's pulse. Xiao Wu told him the situation. At this moment, her eyes were red with anxiety. Doctor, what happened to him? Chapter 140, Kind System. Unfortunately, after the doctor finished the examination, he shook his head and said, it's strange. There is something wrong with his body. Judging from the pulse, both the meridians and the internal organs are very weak, but I just can't find out the cause of the disease. At this time, Ning Rangrang walked in. I have sent the message to my father, and I believe there will be a reply soon. Doctor, how is it? The doctor shook his head and repeated what he had just said. Ning Rangrang walked to Xiao Wu and said, don't worry. After my father receives the message I sent, he will definitely send the best healing soul master in the sect, and he will definitely be able to cure Xiaogang. Xiao Wu's face was full of worry and fear. She held Zhang Xiaogan's hand tightly and nodded. Although Ning Rangrang and Zhu Xiaogang's expressions were not as obvious as hers, the concern and worry in their eyes were no less than Xiao Wu's. Damu Bei saw all of this, but could only sigh helplessly in his heart. Before meeting Zhang Xiaogang, he thought he was good enough. After Zhang Xiaogang appeared, he realized how ridiculous his thoughts were. But now, Zhu Xiaogang has nothing to do with him anymore, and who she has in her heart has nothing to do with him. The so-called doctor is actually a healing spirit master who knows some medical skills and herbal blending techniques. After performing a series of healing spirit skills on Tang San without any effect, the doctor shook his head and walked out the door. Zhao Yulan, Tang San and others immediately followed him out. Please forgive me for being powerless. The doctor said, this situation is really the only one I have ever seen in my life, but you don't have to worry too much. Although he is very weak now, his life energy is still sufficient, and it should not be life-threatening. Flender sighed lightly. It seems that he can't participate in the fighting spirit. The doctor said, don't even think about fighting spirits in his condition. Take good care of your body. After explaining a few more words, the doctor did not collect the money and turned to leave. After he left, Yu Xiaogang frowned and said, I have some ideas about Xiaogan's sudden situation. You say? Flender, Zhao Wuji, Tang San and others immediately perked up. We all know that Xiaogan's martial spirit is full of black death energy. We have all seen its power through Oscar's contact with it. So I guess, Xiaogan's body suddenly became like this. Could it be related to his mutated martial soul? Flanders and Zhao Wuji suddenly slapped their thighs. Yes, it's possible. Last night he just used that magical ability to control other people's bodies. Could it be the backlash of that magical ability? The three looked at each other and immediately went back to the house to ask Zhang Xiaogang. Xiaogang, you used the ability to control the body of the mad rhino last night. Could it be backlashed by that ability? Everyone immediately looked at Zhang Xiaogang, but Zhang Xiaogang shook his head. No, that ability will not backlash me. If it will backlash, I will never use it. Everyone nodded. That's right. With Zhang Xiaogan's strength, even if he wants to kill the mad rhino, there are countless ways. There is no need to risk the backlash to do that trick. Then is it the backlash of the black death energy of your martial soul? Does it also affect your body? Yu Xiaogang asked. Zhang Xiaogang shook his head again. It has been in my body for 7 years. If there was any effect, it would have happened long ago. Yu Xiaogang was speechless. There is nothing wrong with what he said. Damn, what is the reason? Why did he suddenly get sick? And it is so serious? The three girls were distressed. Xiao Wu said, lie down and rest first, don't talk for now. Seeing this, Xiao Yuan didn't ask any questions in her heart. She waited for Zhang Tianyu to get better, or waited for the healing soul master of the Seven Treasures glazed sect to arrive. After leaving the room, the three stood in front of the corridor railing, looking at the roofs opposite without focus. Flanders sighed first. What's going on with these students? It's really confusing. Xiao Wuji was also very upset. Why do I feel that these students are so unlucky one by one? Something incomprehensible happened to all of them. At this time, the memory of Oscar's hair growth had not completely faded. Yu Xiaogang said, Oscar's hair growth problem has been solved. It seems that he recovered by himself. So what do you think? Can Tang San's strange condition and Zhang Tianyu's illness also recover by themselves? Xiao Wuji and Flanders looked at each other. Flanders asked, what if they can't recover by themselves? Yu Xiaogang was silent, with a helpless expression on his face. Then we can't do anything. We don't even know the reason. Then the three of them fell into silence for a long time. Zhang Tianyu's illness was of course caused by the trick prop. This prop would make the affected target look very weak and unbearable, the kind of feeling that would allow outsiders to see at a glance that the person was very sick. But in fact, only Zhang Tianyu himself knew that all this was just an appearance. In fact, his body had no discomfort at all. To pit yourself, you only need the simplest and crudest method, so Zhang Tianyu chose the simplest and most direct method, to make himself look seriously ill, with unknown cause, and no one can do anything. From the perspective of bystanders, the disease he had was the same as Oscar and Tang San's previous situation, with unknown cause, so that he would not let others doubt him. In addition, there is another advantage of pitting yourself in this way, that is, you can see who among these people really cares about him, and who only cares about him on the surface. Now he can see that the three beauties of Shrek really care about him. Xiao Wu has already cried anxiously. Ning Rangrang and Zhu Zuking are about to cry anxiously. They are probably restraining themselves, afraid that others will see something. Of course, it is also possible that he is self-indulgent. Xiao Wu stayed by his side the whole day, even feeding him mouthful by mouthful. Oscar and Tang San felt a little jealous, but there was nothing they could do. Zhang Tianyu was the leading actor of Shrek. If they were also women, they would definitely regard Zhang Tianyu as their only true love. In the afternoon, Zhang Tianyu slowly propped himself up and sat up. Xiao Wu saw this and asked quickly, Tianyu, do you need anything? Tell me. Zhang Tianyu shook his head. I feel a little more relaxed now, and I want to come down and walk around. Can I do that? Xiao Wu was a little worried. Help me, I'll try. Zhang Tianyu said. Hiss, how can I act like I can't stand with my legs weak? I can interrupt you for a while. The system kindly reminded. Chapter 141, something wrong with the mission reward. Seeing that Zhang Tianyu could barely walk, everyone was happy. In the morning, Zhang Tianyu had to ask Oscar to help him when he went to the toilet. Why didn't he let Tang San help him? This is a good question. If Tang San helped him, Zhang Tianyu's illness would not be able to continue. So why didn't he let Xiao Wu help him? Well, the one who asked this question must be a smart kid. In short, Zhang Tianyu now looks as if his body is constantly recovering. Oscar was very sensible and immediately served him the sausage. After Zhang Tianyu ate it, his complexion looked a little better, but if he ate it again, there would be no effect. Tang San said at this time, is it possible that, if we give Tianyu one sausage every once in a while, Tianyu's body will continue to get better? Everyone immediately recalled the situation this morning. Zhang Tianyu's complexion also looked a little better after eating a sausage, but if he ate it again, there would be no effect. And now, after eating one, it looks better again, but if he ate it again, there would be no effect. Xiao Wu nodded and said, it's possible. Does this mean that Tianyu's body is actually constantly recovering itself? Damu Bei said, and Xiao Wu's sausage can promote this recovery? But this promotion also has a cooling time. Everyone said it was possible again. After all, no one had seen or heard of such a situation before, let alone experienced it, so no one could give an accurate answer. Xiaoao, then you give me a sausage every hour. Zhang Tianyu said, although his voice still sounded very weak, it was much better than in the morning and morning. No problem. Oscar answered immediately. Zhang Tianyu had helped him so much before, and he had always been grateful. Now was a good time to repay the favor. It was just a sausage. What a simple thing. An hour later, Zhang Tianyu ate another sausage, but it didn't work. Another hour later, it was time for dinner, and Zhang Tianyu ate another sausage, but it still didn't work. The others had already gone to participate in the fighting spirit after dinner, and Zhang Tianyu certainly couldn't go in this situation. So Xiao Wu didn't go either, and chose to stay and take care of Zhang Tianyu. Although Zhang Tianyu could now force himself to eat, Xiao Wu still insisted on feeding him. This is a kind of early experience of serving my spouse. The system complained. You should eat something too. I can do it myself. Zhang Tianyu said a little apologetically as he watched Xiao Wu feed him one bite at a time. No, I'm going to feed you. Xiao Wu was very determined. You don't have to think about anything now. Just rest well and eat well. I believe you will get better very soon. On the other side, at the big fighting spirit arena, Manager Ao easily found Yu Xiaogang, the leader of the Shrek team. Excuse me, is there anything I can do for you, Manager Ao? Xiao Yulan and the other two looked at the leader of the fighting spirit arena calmly. It's like this, is the Shrek team going to follow this bloody and brutal style in the future? Manager Ao asked politely. Xiao Wuji and Flanders looked at each other. Yu Xiaogang was about to speak when Flanders asked, why are you asking this? If you have any plans, please get straight to the point. That's great. I'll get straight to the point then. Supervisor Ao said, as you can see, there are star teams and ordinary teams in team battles. The so-called star teams, in addition to their own strong strength, the most important thing is that they have their own style. And there are many benefits to becoming a star team. The first one is that, as long as you participate in the battle, regardless of whether you win or not, you can get an appearance fee. The specific amount of this money is not certain, and is determined by many attributes. Flanders asked, then what you mean, is that in the future, let our Shrek team adopt a bloody and brutal style, to become a star team? Yes, Supervisor Ao admitted without hesitation. We have all seen the strength of the Shrek team yesterday. There is no problem at all. Now we just need to stick to our own style, build a reputation, attract fans, and we can become a star team. We can't have this style. Yu Xiaogang refused directly. Manager Ao was slightly stunned. Just as he was about to speak, Flanders immediately said, wait a minute, our team is currently short of players, so we need to go back and discuss it. I'll give you an answer tomorrow night. Okay, I'll wait for your good news. Manager Ao bowed politely and left with two followers. What is there to discuss? Yu Xiaogang frowned. Do you know the consequences of following this style? This will bring us a lot of enemies. Flanders, are you crazy about money? I don't think Xiaoyu will agree. Xiao Wuji said. Whether he agrees or not, we have to go back and ask him. Flanders said, after all, this style was created by him. What if he wants to follow this style in the future? So, you want to destroy the Shrek brand? Yu Xiaogang asked. Are you stupid? Can't you change your name? Flanders laughed. Just change any name. Anyway, they are always wearing masks and others don't know who they are. But soul skills and martial souls cannot be changed, Yu Xiaogang said. Their characteristics must have been recorded by some people with ulterior motives. Then make a lot of money and go to another city. Flanders' eyes were already full of golden flashes. Yu Xiaogang and Xiao Wuji rolled their eyes at him and didn't bother to pay attention to him. As long as Zhang Tianyu is not a fool, he will never agree to follow this style in the future. There is nothing wrong with these two bloody endings, but if this style becomes a habit, then Zhang Tianyu will not be far from becoming a tyrannical and cruel bastard. On the other side, Flanders' mind is already full of Shreks earning a lot of money after becoming a star team. Xiao Wuji said to Yu Xiaogang at this time, Master, I think they can't go with that style, but they can become a star team. Yu Xiaogang nodded. I'm thinking about the style that suits them. Xiao Wuji smiled. Master, you are still thoughtful. On the other side, in the hotel. Reminder, congratulations. In this life, I must be careful and survive to the end. Mission completed. Obtained mission reward, 5th soul ring, progress. 50%. Obtained a random soul guide, being drawn, reward points plus 1000. Zhang Tianyu was happy at first, but after hearing the content of the system prompt, he was immediately stunned. Wait a minute, this is not right. This mission reward is wrong. Chapter 142, 360 shots per second. Zhang Tianyu remembered it clearly. The reward for this task was to give a 5th soul ring directly. How come after completing it, it was only half of it? Did it also temporarily change the task reward? At this time, the system issued a prompt again. It is detected that the original 5th soul ring of the previous life is no longer suitable for the development of the plot in this life. Therefore, the system temporarily changes the task reward and will extract a new soul ring that is more suitable for the situation in this life from the task reward library. I'm very sorry for causing trouble to the host. Please understand. Good guy, it really changed it temporarily. Zhang Tianyu was annoyed. However, according to the nature of the system and previous experience, if the reward for this kind of temporarily changed task is the same as the original task reward, it will be given directly. But now it is not given directly, but only half is given. That means, yes, host, this will be a more powerful new soul ring. The system replied. 6. You should have said it earlier. It's okay. Hehe, then I will wait patiently. Zhang Tianyu said, opened the inventory, and began to check the newly obtained soul guide. Intermediate soul guidance device, dead dwarf, bracelet type soul guidance device. When not activated, it looks like an ordinary bracelet with a silver metallic luster. It can be activated in 2 forms, cloth tiara and eye of death. Cloth tiara form. When the bracelet is activated, it is transformed into a rotary machine gun with 36 barrels, firing energy bullets at a rate of 360 rounds per second, with an effective range of 200 meters and a high kill range of 150 meters. The bullet reserve is 7,200 rounds. The time starts from the firing of the first bullet. Regardless of whether the firing is completed, it takes 3 hours to reload. Eye of Death form. When the bracelet is activated, a cannon barrel is condensed, and at the same time, it locks an enemy according to the host's wishes, and continuously fires 3 macro tracking missiles with an effective range of 500 meters. The maximum flight distance of the tracking missile is 15,000 meters, and it can be intercepted. The time starts after the first missile is fired, and it takes 3 hours to reload. The 2 forms cannot be switched between each other. Each time the form is switched, it takes 30 minutes to wait. What the hell? Exclamation mark. Zhang Tianyu was stunned when he saw this soul guide. It's so powerful. This is just an intermediate soul guide? How awesome would the advanced and top soul guides be? This cloth tiara form is simply amazing. The 6-barrel machine gun on Earth only has a firing rate of 6,000 rounds per minute, which is only 100 rounds per second. The cloth tiara form can directly reach 360 rounds per second. It only takes 20 seconds to finish firing 7,200 bullets. Damn. This thing would be a top-notch artifact on Earth. Advanced soul guides will completely subvert your imagination. As for top soul guides, the system paused and said, maybe you will never see one in this life. This sentence aroused Zhang Tianyu's curiosity. But no matter how he asked, the system stopped talking. It was really disappointing. Everyone at Shrek came back very early tonight. Before 10 o'clock, everyone had already returned to the hotel. At this time, Zhang Tianyu's condition was much better than during the day. He could already sit on the bed and communicate with others normally. During the day, it was difficult for him to speak a word. Tianyu, how do you feel now? The first thing everyone did after returning was to come to see him. Thank you for your concern. Zhang Tianyu smiled on his pale face. I'm much better now. I feel that if I continue like this, I will be able to recover 50% tomorrow. Everyone also showed a relaxed expression when they heard this. Okay, then you have a good rest tonight, and we will come to see you tomorrow during the day. Flanders said. Zhang Tianyu obviously noticed that his expression was a little bit wrong and asked, "Dean, do you have something to say?" Swish. Everyone's eyes immediately turned to Flanders. Flanders said, there is something. That is, I met Director Ao tonight, and Director Ao wanted you to make the bloody operation last night your style. That's impossible. Zhang Tianyu refused directly. I'm not a cruel and bloodthirsty person. I did that last night mainly just to enforce justice. Hearing Zhang Tianyu's answer, Dame Yu Bei and others were not very surprised. After all, Zhang Tianyu had already made his attitude clear last night. Flanders wanted to speak, and Yu Xiaogang said, "Okay, don't disturb Tianyu's rest. I have an idea about this matter. I will tell you in detail when I go back." Flanders could only shrug helplessly and left with Zhao Wuji and Yu Xiaogang. After they left, Oscar then talked about the star team. Zhang Tianyu realized that Flanders wanted to make money from them. He was indeed a guy who would not do anything without profit. It was getting late. Zhao Wu reluctantly said goodbye to Zhang Tianyu and returned to their own room. "Tianyu, if you have anything, call us," Oscar said. "Yes, if you have any problems, you must tell us as soon as possible," Tang San said. Zhang Tianyu said, "Well, don't worry, I won't be polite to you." Soon, the hotel became quiet, and Zhao Yulan and the other two did not actually leave. At this moment, they all stood on the roof of the hotel, staring at the direction of Zhang Tianyu's room. They felt that there must be a reason why Zhang Tianyu suddenly became like this. It may be that he was plotted against by some people with ulterior motives, or it may be that he was retaliated by someone related to the Berserker team. Although Yu Xiaogang did not have any special connections in the Berserker team, who could have expected that there would be people who were not in the information? Therefore, they decided not to go back to the store tonight, but to stay here and watch. If there is a suspicious person who really appears, they will arrest him directly. At the same time, Yu Xiaogang said, "Anyway, let them follow a suitable style, so there is no need to use that bloody and brutal style." "Have you thought about what style to use?" Flanders asked. Yu Xiaogang was silent for 2 seconds and said, "I have investigated the styles of those so-called star teams in the Douyin field. Although their styles are very different, to put it bluntly, they are all performances." Zhao Wuji sneered. "Of course, they are all just to attract fans, so that those brainless people will kneel down and lick them and spend money. So the key is to find a performance that suits them." Yu Xiaogang said, "I have a few ideas. Tell you." The night was spent peacefully. They didn't close their eyes the whole time, staring at Zhang Tianyu and his room until sunrise. No suspicious people approached their room. However, even though everything seemed normal, something shocked them. Chapter 143 The Strongest Healing Soul Master? They had been watching here all night, and no suspicious people had approached, and nothing wrong had happened. However, Zhang Tianyu's condition had become serious again. Just as serious as yesterday morning. Looking at Zhang Tianyu lying on the bed, so weak that he could hardly speak, Zhao Wu was so anxious that she cried. Ning Rangrang and Zhu Zuking were also worried and about to cry. The Shrek boys were even more anxious and turned around. "What's going on?" Flanders asked. "Didn't he feel much better last night?" "We don't understand either." Oscar and Tang San were also completely confused. After feeding Zhang Tianyu a sausage, Zhang Tianyu obviously recovered a little, just like yesterday morning, and could barely speak. Tang San said, "I almost didn't sleep all night last night." Tianyu didn't have any strange symptoms all night last night. His breathing was also very even, but I don't know why he became like this again when he woke up in the morning. Although Tang San was obviously anxious and worried, this sounded like gloating. No one cared. Who made Tang San become a clamp now? Even if his father died, he still spoke like this. Zhao Yulan and the other two looked at each other and roughly understood. Just like Oscar before. What happened to Oscar? Oh, by the way, Oscar's hair grew wildly for no apparent reason, and Tang San became bald for no apparent reason, and then he became a cross-dresser for no apparent reason, just like Jia Ziyan, without any signs, without any reason, and it happened so suddenly that it was hard to prevent. Zhang Tianyu must be in this situation as well. At this time, Flanders was a little bit worried. Could it be that my Shrek Academy is a very dangerous place? Will the students who come here experience some inexplicable strange events? That's not right. So many batches of students before, and this kind of situation has never happened. Flanders suddenly seemed to understand something. Maybe this Shrek Academy is really a very dangerous place. Although the students before did not experience these messy strange events, they often did not have a good end. Except for the few who broke through the siege like Kinming, most of the other students were either dead or useless. In this case, the current batch of students suffered such a strange event. Could it be that the wronged souls of the students who died in vain before came back for revenge? Or is it retribution for the things that happened in the past? Why wait for the next life for retribution in this life? Thinking of this, Flanders couldn't help crying. What's wrong with you? Yu Xiaogang asked suddenly. Flanders sighed and held back his tears. I'll go out for some fresh air. Xiao Wuji glanced at him. At this time, he also thought of the retribution theory. But even if the wronged souls of the former students came back for revenge, they should have taken revenge on the deans and teachers. Why did they take revenge on the students? Hiss. Could it be to force these students to leave? It seems possible. Because everything they have experienced so far is not fatal. Therefore, this looks more like a warning, or it can be said to be an expulsion. In fact, Xiao Wuji has forgotten that they have been retaliated against, just like the women in the brothel. They can't understand why their bodies suddenly became plump and hot. Thinking of this, Xiao Wuji also left the room and came outside, and saw Flanders sitting on the stairs. At this moment, Flanders' back looked a little thin and lonely. Boss. Xiao Wuji walked over and sat beside him. Flanders sighed. Old Xiao, do you think that the things we did before are retribution to these children? Xiao Wuji was silent for 2 seconds and replied, I'm also thinking about this question, but even if it is retribution, it should be retribution on us. Why should it be retribution on children? Xiao Wuji did not say his guess. Flanders' idea was the same as his. Flanders sighed again and said, maybe it was their dead seniors who drove them away in the dark. Xiao Wuji fell into a long silence this time. Hey, these two really want to go together. It's a pity that Zhang Tianyu didn't turn on the Jianghu function now. Otherwise, when he heard the ghosts and gods theory of these two people, he would probably burst out laughing on the spot. Good guy. It's really rare to associate the effect caused by the cheating props with ghosts and gods. Although there is not much mention of this place in Douluo continent, there are also things like ghosts and gods. And the vast majority of people who believe in and fear ghosts and gods are ordinary people. Why do high-level soul masters like Xiao Wuji and Flanders think so? It's very simple. The effect caused by the cheating props is too weird. They can't help but think about it, because it can't explain it in other ways. The Seven Treasures Glazed sect is very efficient. That afternoon, the healing soul master sent Binding Fengzi arrived. Seventh uncle, you are finally here. Ning Rangrang said anxiously. Meet the eldest lady. The man called the seventh uncle is a handsome middle-aged man wearing a white robe, which is in line with everyone's imagination of the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. No need to be polite, just take a look at him. Ning Rangrang was almost crying. Ning Shies took a deep look at the young lady, then summoned the Seven Treasures Glazed Tower. The 6 soul rings spun and danced on his body, and the soft light made everyone present feel comfortable physically and mentally. He is the strongest healing spirit master in the Seven Treasures Glazed sect, and all 6 soul rings are related to healing. The first soul skill is comprehensive diagnosis. In Ning Rangrang's words, with her 7th uncle, no matter what disease or poison, it can be found out and then treated accordingly. After hearing her words, everyone was full of hope. However, how could the invincible, comprehensive diagnosis be better than the system props? Ning Shies activated the first soul skill, checked Zhang Tianyu's whole body, and was stunned. 7th uncle, what's wrong with Tianyu? I don't know. Ning Shies was confused. Sorry young lady, I didn't find it. What? Ning Rangrang was incredulous. 7th uncle, you are the strongest healing soul master in the sect. How come you can't find out what's wrong? Ning Rangrang was also confused. This young man's internal organs and meridians are indeed very weak. The disease is definitely not light, but we just can't find out the cause. This is very strange. I have never encountered such a situation. That's great, Zhang Tianyu thought. It means that no one around you has ever been cheated. Chapter 144 The correct solution. Think of another way, Uncle Qi. Ningrangrang was really about to cry this time. She had placed all her hopes on Ningxi's. If he couldn't do anything, wouldn't that mean that Zhang Tianyu was already terminally ill and incurable? Thinking of this, Ningrangrang's desperate tears fell down. Tianyu. Tianyu. How can I live without you? Tianyu. Looking at Ningrangrang's appearance, Ningxi's already understood. Well, it seems that the little witch of our seven treasures glazed tile sect has been conquered by this guy. This is a good thing. Finally someone can conquer her. And this guy's really good looking. Although he is sick now, and his complexion is very bad, it can be seen that he is a handsome guy with a magnificent beauty. In terms of appearance alone, he is a perfect match for our eldest lady. But the question is, why do the two little girls next to him seem to care about this guy? No way. Is this guy cheating on 3 women? That's not right. The care these two girls have for him is written on their faces. Ningrangrang can't fail to see it. If you can see it, but still don't care, it means, well, you young people are really having fun now. I'm old and can't keep up with the times. Miss, I don't want to deceive you, but it's true. My first soul skill really can't diagnose the cause of his disease. But my 7 treasures recovery technique should be able to give it a try. Hearing this, Ningrangrang stopped crying immediately, and hope rekindled in her eyes. Yes, Uncle 7. And your universal healing technique. Give it a try. Ningxi slowly raised his hand, and the 7 treasures glazed tower radiated an extremely bright light. Although it was bright, it was not dazzling, but very soft. Everyone who felt this light showed an expression of enjoyment on their faces uncontrollably. This is enjoyment from the heart. 6th soul skill, 7 treasures recovery. This is the so-called universal healing technique. Under normal circumstances, the healing techniques of healing soul masters can only heal injuries received in battle, and are mostly powerless against soul masters' diseases. For example, the famous 9-heart begonia martial soul is known as difficult to die. Indeed, this martial soul can heal all injuries received in battle, but its ability to treat diseases is very limited. But 7 treasures recovery is different. This is the fundamental reason why Ningxi's can sit firmly on the throne of the strongest healing soul master of the 7 treasures glazed sect. Any disease, pain, and toxin can all be cured by 7 treasures recovery. It's so awesome. As the light poured into Zhang Tianyu's body, Zhang Tianyu's face really quickly became rosy and shiny, and his eyes also changed from the previous dullness to a bright and energetic look. He really recovered. Zhang Tianyu sat up, looked down at his hands and body, and his face showed an expression of joy and shock. After the soul skill was released, Ningxi's face became a little worse. This soul skill is very powerful, but at the same time, it will consume a lot of soul power. The more serious the disease, injury or poisoning symptoms of the rescued target, the more soul power will be consumed. Just now, Ningxi's soul power was almost drained. Damn, what disease did this kid have? It almost took my life. Ningxi's complained in his heart. Zhang Tianyu immediately got out of bed and bowed to Ningxi's. Thank you, senior. Thank you for your treatment and life-saving grace. You're welcome. Ningxi's waved his hand. If you really appreciate me, be nicer to my niece in the future. Remember? Xiaowu and Zhu Zuking's faces were full of joy after Zhang Tianyu was cured, and they didn't care about this sentence. Ningrangrang blushed immediately and said angrily, 7th uncle, what are you talking about? Tianyu and I are just classmates and comrades in arms. Zhang Tianyu answered very straightforwardly, uncle. At any time in the future, as long as I'm not dead, I will definitely protect Ningrangrang from any enemy's harm. Ningrangrang was moved. Fuck, what kind of ek is this? It's too high. The system is convinced. No one can find fault with Zhang Tianyu's words. In the eyes of Xiaowu and Zhu Zuking, he is a combat soul master, and it is his duty to protect auxiliary soul masters like Ningrangrang. In the eyes of Ningxi's, this kid is going to protect Ningrangrang with his life, which is very good. So the meaning of this sentence depends on how each person understands it. Whether it is Ningxi's or Xiao Wu, there is no way to find fault. Okay, I should go and take a rest, Ningxi said, but as soon as he finished speaking, before anyone else could speak, Zhang Tianyu was about to speak, and suddenly his face turned pale again, and then he fell to the ground with a dizzy spin. Tianyu! Ningrangrang and Xiao Wu exclaimed at once. Ningxi's turned around and saw Zhang Tianyu lying on the ground, completely stunned. Really, today he was completely stunned for the rest of his life. How come I? Zhang Tianyu's voice became extremely weak again. Ningxi's quickly mobilized the little soul power he had just gathered to give Zhang Tianyu a full body check, and then continued to be confused. How could this happen? This doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be like this. Zhang Tianyu's internal organs and veins turned into that extremely weak state again. Looking at Ningrangrang's expectant expression, Ningxi shook his head helplessly with a bitter smile on his face. Miss, I really can't do anything this time. I just used the 7 treasures recovery on him, which has consumed all my soul power. I can't use it again. At this time, Zhang Tianyu said with all his strength, no senior, don't waste your soul power on me. Thank you senior. This child is really sensible. Ningxi's held Zhang Tianyu's hand. Child, uncle is not capable enough and can't save you. I'm sorry. You must persist in living well. There are many people in this world who care about you. Uncle, you don't have to apologize. You have helped me a lot. Zhang Tianyu said gratefully, I will remember your words and I will do my best to persist. For Ningxi's failure, Zhao Yulin and the other 2 were not too surprised. This is all retribution. As for why Zhang Tianyu encountered the most serious situation, they can only think that Zhang Tianyu is the most talented and the strongest among all the students so far. Therefore, the spirits of those seniors in heaven are very eager to let Zhang Tianyu leave here and not be buried here, so Zhang Tianyu will encounter the most serious situation. In addition, they can't think of any other reasons. Alas. Flanders sighed, should I disband Shrek Academy? If the academy is disbanded, these students will not encounter these bizarre events. Chapter 145 It's your turn next. Yu Xiaogang. If Flanders really disbanded Shrek Academy and everyone went their separate ways, then Zhang Tianyu would probably not mess with anyone, except Tang San and Yu Xiaogang. But Flanders was just talking casually. How could he bear to disband Shrek like this? Not to mention that the theory of ghosts and gods was just a guess without any reason or basis. Even if this guess was true, Shrek Academy was his hard work for so many years, and he couldn't just disband it without thinking about anything. He and Zhao Wuji sighed outside the room. The atmosphere in the room was very depressing and heavy. The strongest auxiliary martial spirit in the world is the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. Now even the strongest healing spirit master in the 7 treasures glazed pagoda is helpless. If you convert the concept, this is equivalent to going to the best hospital in the world on earth and inviting the best doctor in the hospital, but the doctor shook his head and said that he was powerless. This is like a death sentence. Ningrangrang and Zhu Xiaogang couldn't stop crying anymore. Ningrangrang and Xiao Wu kept sobbing, and her tears couldn't stop flowing. Zhu Xiaogang was more reserved, sitting quietly and wiping her eyes and tears. The boy's expressions were also very solemn, full of pessimism and despair. The most speechless one was Zhang Tianyu. Is it that serious? I just made a small mistake, and I won't die. You are like attending my memorial service. Is it that serious? Host, they don't know your current situation, so it's not surprising that they have such an attitude and reaction out of concern for your health. The system said. What's wrong with you? Zhang Tianyu smiled. I'm not dead yet. Why are you so sad? It would have been better if he didn't say this. When they heard the word death, Xiao Wu and Ningrangrang were shocked on the spot, and they hugged Zhang Tianyu's arms on the left and right and cried. Zhu Xiaogang buried her head even lower, and her shoulders were shaking violently. Good guy. People who don't know would think I'm dead. Zhang Tianyu thought, and Zhu Xiaogang is like this. Damn, I would believe it, even if she said she was laughing. The system was a little speechless. Host, can this be considered fun? You don't understand. I'm not trying to have fun. I'm good at finding fun. Zhang Tianyu smiled. Life is already so unbearable. If you don't find some fun for yourself, you will be soon becoming a walking corpse. The system was silent for 2 seconds and said, I support you in finding fun, but I still hope you don't become a slave to fun. Zhang Tianyu raised his eyebrows. Have a little confidence in your host, okay? Tianyu, no matter what, you must stick to it. Damu Bei walked to Zhang Tianyu's bed and held Zhang Tianyu's hand. Yes, Tianyu, my previous hair growth problem has recovered. I believe you can recover too. Oscar said. Ahem, is this a fucking farewell before death? Zhang Tianyu coughed twice and said with a smile, but he didn't know that, after seeing his smile now, everyone felt even more uncomfortable. Think about Zhang Tianyu in the past. This smile was so sunny and handsome, but now, although the pale face makes this smile look better, it also carries a kind of sickly weakness, but, in comparison, they still prefer his previous healthy look. Xiao Wu hugged his arm and said, don't say such unlucky words. Okay, I won't say it. Zhang Tianyu coughed a few more times and said, I don't think you need to do this, because I feel much better now than in the morning. Everyone looked at him. He adjusted his breathing a few times and continued, I recalled my condition yesterday. I found that the symptoms seemed to be the most serious in the early morning every day. I couldn't even speak. But as time goes by, I will feel that my physical condition is gradually getting better. By this time in the afternoon, it is no longer a problem for me to speak normally, and I can sit up. And according to my estimation, by the evening, it should be able to recover about 50% to 60%. Tang San said at this time, then tomorrow morning we'll continue to repeat today's situation. It is very uncomfortable to get up in the morning, and it will slowly get better as time goes by. Zhang Tianyu nodded. Although I don't know the reason, I think it should be like this. Next, we just have to wait and see if the evening will be the same as last night. Sure enough, just as Zhang Tianyu said, as time went by, his condition got better and better. In the evening, when the others came back from the game, Zhang Tianyu was just like he was last night. He had no problem getting out of bed and walking, and his complexion had mostly returned to normal. So, is this the pattern? Damu Bei asked. Zhang Tianyu nodded. It will be easy if we find the pattern. Although we still can't solve this problem and we don't know the reason, at least we don't have to worry about dying of illness. If, when I wake up tomorrow morning, I'm still so weak, don't worry. Everyone nodded. Xiao Wu was finally relieved. At this time, the smart Mahanjan asked, could it be that the symptoms have worsened because of sleeping, so it is so serious when you wake up in the morning? Everyone was stunned, and then Mahanjan asked hesitantly, how about, Tianyu, why don't you try not to sleep tonight? Zhang Tianyu said, okay, then I will try not to sleep tonight, but it's hard, because last night I felt very tired, a tiredness I have never had before, and then I couldn't control myself and fell asleep. Tang San said, uncontrollable desire to sleep is sometimes a recovery mechanism of the body. Maybe you were too tired before, Tianyu, so your body will have this symptom. Oscar said, then why don't you try not to sleep? If it really doesn't work, then sleep. Zhang Tianyu shrugged, okay. Fortunately, Oscar and Tang San did not behave badly. If Oscar said, we will keep an eye on you, and if you fall asleep we will wake you up, then Zhang Tianyu would really be trapped in Bangbu. No words were spoken that night. The next morning, everyone came to Zhang Tianyu's room. Sure enough, Zhang Tianyu's condition was the same as yesterday morning, and he became extremely weak. However, everyone was no longer so worried this time. It seemed that the pattern was indeed like this. After figuring out the pattern and confirming that Zhang Tianyu would not be in danger of life, everyone was no longer so worried. For the next week, Zhang Tianyu kept repeating this process until the new week came. Okay, host, the 1 week period has passed, and now the effect of this prop should stop. The system said, and next, it's Yu Xiaogang's turn. He can't continue to be stable. That's exactly what I want. Zhang Tianyu laughed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 146, Unexpected, but Reasonable. 2 days ago, the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile Sect. The dusty Ningxi's returned to the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile Sect, and the first thing he did was to report to the sect master Ning Fengzi that Ning Rangrang had been subdued by Zhang Tianyu. Originally, this was a happy event, especially after hearing that Zhang Tianyu was the same age as Ning Rangrang, but was already a powerful soul sect master, and his martial soul was an extremely powerful mutant sword martial soul. After that, Ning Fengzi was even happier. The direct descendants of the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile Sect all inherited the auxiliary martial soul of the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile Tower, and had no combat ability at all. Therefore, the sect stipulated that the spouse of the direct descendants must be a combat soul master, and a powerful combat soul master. This Zhang Tianyu completely met the sect's mate selection standards, and even exceeded the standards. After hearing this, Giant Douluo became even more interested. A powerful descendant who also possessed a sword martial soul, and was also Ning Rangrang's sweetheart. He, as a grandfather, must go and see it. However, after hearing that Zhang Tianyu had two confidants besides Ning Rangrang, Ning Fengzi and Giant Douluo hadn't said anything yet, but Gu Douluo jumped up on the spot. So, this is a bastard who is cheating on 3 women at the same time. Humph. Dare to treat Rangrang like this? I will not forgive him. I'll go and deal with him now. Stop. Giant Douluo immediately stopped him. At the same time, Ning Fengzi also said, Uncle Gu, don't be in a hurry, stay calm. Isn't I calm? Gu Douluo rolled his eyes. Rangrang is not your own daughter? You are still calm, even though she is cheating on 3 women at the same time. Ning Fengzi smiled and said, precisely because she is my daughter, I understand her. I don't think she is a fool. Gu Douluo frowned. What do you mean? Even Shies can see it. That kid has 2 confidants. Can't Rangrang, who is with him day and night, see it? Gu Douluo was stunned. Ning Fengzi went on to say, Rangrang must know that too, but Rangrang is still very nice to him, and refuses to give up. This shows that the boy is not actually 3-timing, he's just too outstanding, and 3 girls of the same age like him. Bone Douluo was unconvinced. Is there any difference between this and 3-timing? Sword Douluo laughed. There is a big difference. Haha, it's normal for a handsome boy to be loved by someone. Unlike some weirdos who have never experienced the feeling of being loved by several women in their entire lives. Bone Douluo was instantly fed up. You coward, who the hell are you talking about? Sword Douluo laughed. I'm talking about whoever is anxious. Bone Douluo looked left and right, and he was the only one in the audience who was anxious. Come to think of it, Giant Douluo is old now, but he still has the same demeanor. In addition, his martial soul is a sword, so the word stylish and unrestrained is tailor-made for him. Not to mention Ning Fengzi, who was also recognized as one of the top handsome men in the continent when he was young, and even now he is a killer of young girls and young women. Although Ning Shies is not as good as these 2, he is also a gentle and handsome man. Even the disciples of the sects on both sides are also dignified, with sword eyebrows and starry eyes. Looking around, the ugliest person in the audience is none other than Gu Douluo. Damn. Gu Douluo was so angry that he swore. Ning Fengzi shrugged and smiled. Uncle Gu, don't be impatient. Uncle Giant definitely doesn't mean to laugh at you. Fengzi, you don't need to explain, I'm just laughing at him. Giant Douluo laughed even happier. Gu Douluo was so angry that he ignored them. He shouldn't go, but I want to go and see. Giant Douluo said, I must go and see my future grandson-in-law. Ning Fengzi said, Uncle Giant, you can go and see them, but don't disturb them. Besides, the grandson-in-law thing is still uncertain. Don't worry, I know my limits. The voice was still there, but the man had already controlled the flying sword and left the hall. Ning Fengzi held his forehead and smiled bitterly. This Uncle Jian never walked properly. Over the years, the gate has been repaired and replaced countless times. Humph, I'll say it first. Bone Douluo said, if this kid dares to bully Rangrang and let Rangrang down, I will pull out his bones. At the same time, Wuhan City. At this moment, Wuhan City was peaceful. No one noticed that Tang Heo had entered the city and lurked. Although the defenses in Wuhan City are strict, it is a peaceful era after all, and the defenses are not so abnormal. In addition, Tang Heo is a titled Douluo after all. As long as he carefully hides his tracks and does not easily approach important buildings such as the Pope's Palace, he will not be easily discovered. He actually arrived in Wuhan City a long time ago, but he did not rush to attack Douluo, but kept observing in secret. After all, for him, this is the enemy's territory. No matter what he does, he must think twice and be cautious. Soon, the target mission Douluo appeared in his eyes. Seeing this guy, Tang Heo's eyes suddenly became sharp. In the past, it was Qiang Sunji who took him and goes Douluo to force Yin to death. Now this guy is attacking his son Tang San again. This is really a combination of new and old hatreds. Although there is no evidence to prove that Tang San became that tricky because of Douluo, but Douluo's androgynous appearance, Tang Heo felt that he was suspicious. Therefore, it is best to find an opportunity to capture Douluo and interrogate him. 2 days later, finally, the days of lurking paid off, and the opportunity finally came. On this day, Douluo seemed to have received some orders from the Pope and summoned some people to leave Wuhan City. Tang Heo immediately chased after him. The time when Douluo and Tang Heo left Wuhan City one after another was exactly the time when Zhang Douluo arrived in Soto City, and it was also the time when Zhang Tianyu ended the effect of the void medical record item. Seeing that Zhang Tianyu finally completely recovered and lived a normal life, everyone was relieved and showed happy expressions on their faces. Hint: activate the task. Life is not always difficult, but we are. Task target: trick Yu Xiaogang. No limit on the method, no limit on the means, no limit on the consequences, but cannot cause his death, nor expose yourself. Task reward: 5th soul ring, 50% activation, soul power level +1, reward point +1000. Okay, but the problem is, I was busy pretending to be sick these days, and I didn't think about what method to use to trick Yu Xiaogang next. But can this stump Zhang Tianyu? Ha. What a coincidence. It really stumped him. So Zhang Tianyu didn't say anything, chatted with the Shrek people for a few words, and then made an excuse to take a rest, then quickly lay down on the bed and opened the system mall to search. At this time, a notification popped up on the live map. After seeing this notification, Zhang Tianyu suddenly had an unexpected but reasonable feeling. Giant Douluo is here. Chapter 147 begins the countdown. Have you disguised Xiao Wu? Zhang Tianyu asked the system. Yes, I've been disguising myself. Even if Zhang Douluo comes, he won't be able to find me. Don't worry. The system replied. You are still as reliable as ever. Zhang Tianyu praised. Zhang Douluo didn't seem to have any intention of showing up. He just stopped near the hotel, apparently observing in secret. It's obvious that he treats you as his grandson-in-law and is observing you. The system said, just like in the last life. There's no way, your host is so good. Zhang Tianyu said. As the system said, Zhang Douluo is now observing him in secret. For so many years, Ning Rangrang has been like Zhang Douluo's granddaughter. Now that she has fallen in love with a young man, he, as a grandfather, naturally has to come and check it out in person. After seeing Zhang Tianyu, Zhang Douluo was a little surprised, because according to Ningxi's, when he left, Zhang Tianyu was still seriously ill and had not recovered. But now, Zhang Tianyu looks completely back to normal. Is he well? Zhang Douluo muttered to himself in a strange way. It's good that he's recovered. This means that there's nothing wrong with this kid's body. He doesn't want Ning Rangrang to marry a sickly man in the future. Well, this kid is really good looking, handsome, elegant, although not as good looking as I was when I was young, but, it's also very good. There was no one else around Zhang Douluo at this time, so he didn't blush at all when he said this. Then, he saw the three beauties of Shrek appearing next to Zhang Tianyu, and his expression suddenly became complicated. The second floor of the hotel. Today, everyone in Shrek is very festive, because the unknown disease that tormented Zhang Tianyu for a week has finally been cured without medicine. and Zhang Tianyu has finally returned to normal. I've made everyone worried and troubled these days, so I'll treat you at noon today. Naturally, everyone would not refuse. Only the three Shrek beauties were a little worried. Xiao Wu asked, "You have just recovered from your illness. Why don't you rest for another day?" "It's okay, no need," Zhang Tianyu said with a smile. "I'm completely well now, without any discomfort, just the same as before." "Is it really okay?" Ning Rangrang was also worried. "Why not just forget it for now?" Zhu Zuking also said. "It's really okay," Zhang Tianyu said. "I know my own body well. And I had a dream last night. A voice in the dream told me that I was completely well, and I didn't have to worry anymore. And when I woke up this morning, I felt really well. I no longer felt weak. Is it so magical?" Everyone was a little surprised. "Yes, let's go. Let's talk while walking." Zhang Tianyu led everyone out of the hotel. "Xiao, didn't you have such a dream the day before your body returned to normal?" Zhang Tianyu asked Oscar. Oscar replied, "No, maybe I did, but I forgot." When Oscar mentioned this, his expression did not look very happy. The reason was very simple. It had been half a month since the uncontrolled hair growth incident, but Oscar's ability in that aspect was still very poor. Oscar even felt that his life was really over. If he could not be a man in this life, what should he do? Tang San's expression was not very good either, because he often had that kind of dream of returning to normal, but every time he woke up, he was greeted by his shiny big bald head. "Do I have to have this bald head for the rest of my life? Then how can I find a wife in the future?" "Well, as long as you are a spirit master, even if you are bald, it will not hinder you from finding a wife." But he really doesn't like bald heads. So he still insists on wearing various wigs every day, such as double ponytails, long ponytails, black long straight hair or buns, etc. And then match it with different princess dresses, pink horse dresses, cheongsams and other beautiful clothes every day. Tang San feels that his life is actually quite colorful now. Yes, that's right. The effects of crossdresser and maximum level clip have been continuing and have not ended yet. Even if it ends, it doesn't matter. Anyway, Zhang Tianyu's current reward points have exceeded 10,000 and they can't be used anywhere else. Well, it seems that I'm the only one who had such a bizarre dream. Zhang Tianyu shrugged. After saying this, Zhang Tianyu glanced in the direction of Zhang Douluo, and Zhang Douluo was stunned. This sight doesn't seem to be a casual glance. Could it be that this kid has discovered my existence? No way. I'm a titled Douluo, and I have completely concealed my aura. How could I be discovered by a small soul sect? At this time, he remembered Ning Shai saying that Zhang Tianyu's martial soul was a mutated sword martial soul. So he frowned slightly and thought, could it be because this kid's mutated sword martial soul has the ability to perceive other sword martial souls, so he noticed my existence? Thinking of this, a smile appeared on Zhang Douluo's face. Not bad. Quite interesting. When they walked to the hotel gate, they happened to run into Zhao Yulin and the other two who came to visit. Since the third day, these three people have been visiting Zhang Tianyu almost every day at this time. Now seeing Zhang Tianyu jumping in front of them, the three were all shocked. "Ah, Tianyu, are you okay?" Flanders asked in surprise. "Yes, Dean, teacher, master, I'm completely healed." Zhang Tianyu smiled. "Great. Oh, you are finally healed. Now we are relieved." It can be seen that these three people really care about Zhang Tianyu, but even so, Zhang Tianyu will not let Yu Xiaogang go. Now he finds that the whole job is good, and simple and rough is also good, so this time, he will simply and roughly trick Yu Xiaogang. Choose the trick props in your mind, and it will be you. Select the target, Yu Xiaogang, and use it. Use it successfully. Of course, it will not take effect now. After all, Zhang Tianyu's body has just recovered, and Yu Xiaogang got into trouble as soon as he recovered. I'm not afraid of anything else, but I'm afraid that someone with ulterior motives will contact him. "Are you so worried about the effect of memory fade?" asked the system. "Better safe than sorry," Zhang Tianyu said. "I don't ask for anything else now, just stability. Everything must be stable as a foundation." Although there is a system, you can restart the game endlessly, but this thing is like playing Red Alert. You are almost winning, but the opponent suddenly throws a few super weapons at you, and then you can restart the game, but you have to start from the beginning, which is very annoying. So, Yu Xiaogang, the time is about to start counting down. PS, my computer is obviously a mature computer, why can't I write the book myself? Chapter 148 Yu Xiaogang is crazy? 2 days later. In these 2 days, everyone's life has returned to its previous state. However, now when the three Shrek beauties think of the days when Zhang Tianyu was seriously ill, they still feel lingering fear. It can only be said that fortunately the strange disease has healed automatically, and Giant Douluo has been staying in Soto City for the past 2 days, silently observing Zhang Tianyu's every move. If this kid does not meet his standards for his grandson-in-law, he will intervene immediately. Anyway, he will never allow Ning Rangrang to marry someone who does not satisfy him. But fortunately, the overall result is good. Giant Douluo is generally very satisfied with Zhang Tianyu. Looking at the three Shrek beauties who are affectionate to Zhang Tianyu, Giant Douluo can't help but recall some past events. Then he said to himself with emotion, alas, it's still good to be young. I really miss the old days. I don't know how they are doing now. Just when Giant Douluo fell into infinite reverie, Zhang Tianyu and others also came to the gathering of the Great Fighting Soul Field. On the day Zhang Tianyu recovered, he participated in the soul fighting. Of course, everyone was very worried, but the soul fighting did not have any accidents. Zhang Tianyu's performance was as fast, accurate, and ruthless as before, so everyone was relieved. Keep up the good work. Flanders cheered everyone up as usual at the entrance of the soul fighting arena. Strive to win all the games today. We will win. Everyone shouted in unison, and then stepped into the soul fighting arena. Registration. Going through the process. Everything was the same as usual. There was no difference. No one realized that tonight was an unusual night. Of course, they would not realize it. If they could realize it, then they would also become hosts with systems. After all the individual battles and team battles were over, everyone came to the team battle area. Just as director Ao had imagined, after Shrek killed the Berserker team in a bloody way, Shrek's name became a hit. On the second day, the audience who came to watch the Shrek team fight sold out the tickets for the soul fighting arena in a short time. Manager Ao finally saw Shrek's ability to attract money. But unfortunately, because Zhang Tianyu was seriously ill the day after the competition, he could not participate in the Daohan, and Zhao Yulin and the other two did not want Tang San to play. So since then, Shrek has not played a team battle for a week, and the Daohan field was scolded by the audience who came here for the reputation. But today, he is here. He is back again with his comrades. The moment he saw Zhang Tianyu, Manager Ao almost burst into tears. Finally you are here to compete again. I thought you wouldn't play team games anymore. Manager Ao excitedly shook Zhang Tianyu's hand. Zhang Tianyu knew what he was thinking and said, you don't have to say anything extra. I won't go for a bloody and brutal style. What I did to the Berserker team before was only because they were not good guys, so I was just doing justice for the heavens. Understood. Understood. Manager Ao said, no matter what style you choose to go for, as long as you can come to the competition. In this team battle, the two teams are the Shrek team and the Eagle Bear team. Hearing the name, Shrek team, the audience instantly boiled over. Shrek. 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 Oh, hell. I'm finally waiting for Shrek's match. Looking forward to it. Excited. Bloody end. Bloody end. Fatality. Fatality. Grind them into minced meat. Chop them into minced meat. Come on Shrek. I support you. The crazy shouts of the audience were like a tsunami, and Manager Ao was really enlightened today. There have been many star teams in the history of the soul fighting arena, and there are also some that can make the audience so crazy, but this is the first time he has seen a team that can make the audience so crazy after only one game. I have to serve this team well, let them attract more audiences and more gold soul coins, so that my income can go up. Manager Ao said in his heart. Not to mention Manager Ao, even Zhang Tianyu and the Shrek team were shocked. They never expected that this group of audiences would be so crazy. Good guy. Bloody violence and bitterness can attract people's attention and make people addicted. So it should be banned. The system said. To be precise, it should not be allowed to be exposed to minors. Zhang Tianyu said. Well, whatever you say is what it is. Zhang Tianyu wanted to take advantage of the opportunity of today's team battle to show his kindness side, telling his opponents and all the audience that he and Shrek are not cruel and bloodthirsty people. He treated the Berserker team like that before, just because he wanted to enforce justice. As a result, he thought very well, but what he never expected was that the Eagle Bear team, which is homophonic with the Hero team, has a very domineering name, but the members are very cowardly. After hearing the name of the Shrek team, they chose to surrender on the spot without saying a word. The Shrek team is really strong. The Eagle Bear team chose to surrender without fighting with the Shrek team. So, the winner of this time is Shrek team. The whole audience was in an uproar. Coward. Coward. Eagle Bear team. What Eagle Bear team? Pure Bear team. Disgusting. Go home and feed your mothers. Trash. Garbage. The audience was all furious, scolding the Eagle Bear team for surrendering at the last minute. It's no wonder the audience was angry. Many of them didn't see the bloody end of Zhang Tianyu, so they felt very sorry and wanted to see it with their own eyes and experience the bloody and exciting scene of watching it live. After waiting for a week, the opponent surrendered without even fighting? Who can bear this kind of frustration? In fact, it's no wonder that the Eagle Bear team was cowardly. They were not even the opponent of the Mad team, so how could they have the courage to face the Shrek team, which was more powerful and more ruthless than the Mad team? They didn't want to end up with no intact corpse, so they surrendered directly. It's better to be scolded than to be killed, and even better than to be cut into mincemeat. However, amidst the scene of anger and cursing, another figure was very discordant. Oh yeah. We win. We win. Ha ha ha. Oh. 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 Win. 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 Shrek is the strongest. Shrek is the best. Shrek is the coolest. Everyone looked and saw Yu Xiaogang with his bare chest, waving his robe in his hands, dancing like a mad gorilla, and making monkey-like noises from his mouth. Chapter 149, Request. The area of psychological shadow. This discordant scene quickly calmed down the angry and irritable audience. Xiao Wuji and Flanders also stared at Yu Xiaogang dancing with their eyes wide open in horror, both of them confused. The Shrek people who were about to leave the ring were confused when they saw this scene. What happened? Exclamation mark. What happened to Yu Xiaogang? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Great. Great. Win. Win. Yu Xiaogang's movements and voice became more and more exaggerated, and his robe was waving in his hands. He looked like a fan on earth who was crazy when he saw his favorite team score a goal. Hey, are you okay? Flanders quickly pulled him up. Isn't it just a win in a team battle? Is there any need to be so excited? Of course I'm happy. Because we won. We won. Ha 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 ha. Great. Great. Hehe. Xiao Wuji pulled Flanders up and said, forget it. Forget it. Xianyu Shenshin hasn't been doing well these days and hasn't participated in the team battle. Today he finally got a chance to participate and won the team battle again. It's normal for the master to be happy. Normal shit. Flanders cursed without any hesitation. He wasn't like this before. Even if he was happy, he wouldn't be so careless about his image. At this moment, Yu Xiaogang's upper body was exposed to the air. If it was Yu Xiaogang when he was young, it would be fine. At that time, he had a good figure. Unlike now, Yu Xiaogang has gained weight and his slightly bloated figure is very eye-catching. Many viewers have already revealed expressions of disgust. Okay, don't get excited. Let's go. Flanders dragged Yu Xiaogang out, which was really embarrassing. Shrek people. Alas. It's too much to watch. It's really too much to watch. Why did Yu Xiaogang suddenly go crazy? After leaving the gate of the fighting spirit arena, Yu Xiaogang finally calmed down and put on his clothes. I said, what's wrong with you? Flanders frowned. Is it necessary to have such a big reaction? What? What's such a big reaction? Yu Xiaogang asked in a somewhat strange way. How dare you ask? It's just a team battle, and it's a game with a huge gap in strength and no suspense. Why are you so excited? Flanders asked with a squint. I'm happy, but my reaction is not big. I'm not very excited. Yu Xiaogang asked back, are you not happy that they won the game? Of course I'm happy, but not to the extent of. Flanders was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. Okay, I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Be more careful next time. It's inexplicable. Yu Xiaogang looked at him strangely. Soon, Zhang Tianyu and others walked out of the fighting spirit arena. They looked at Yu Xiaogang with a bit of weird eyes. Zhao Wuji and Flanders glanced at Yu Xiaogang, thinking, did you see it? The way these students look at you is not right, and you are still pretending. Yu Xiaogang looked at them and said, it seems that the previous killing of a chicken to scare the monkeys is still quite effective. Weaker teams like this don't have the courage to fight you. Everyone looked at each other. Is this back to normal? Looking at the calm, composed, and steady Yu Xiaogang in front of them, it is difficult for them to connect him with the madman who was shirtless, waving his clothes, and imitating the gorilla's cry just now. Zhang Tianyu replied, hey, actually I wanted to take this opportunity to explain tonight. I planned not to hurt them after the game, and then show that we are not that kind of people, but they didn't even dare to compete. Hearing him speak, everyone's expression immediately relaxed, no longer entangled in Yu Xiaogang's stupid behavior just now. Damu Bei smiled and said, I guess it's not easy to find this opportunity to explain. Our current team battle level is Iron Fighting Spirit. The strength of the team at this level is generally not very high. Oscar smiled. If my estimate is correct, we can almost win for a while. If that's the case, that's great. Mahanjan said. But I don't think it's good. Tang San said. Our team battle cooperation also needs to be honed. These low level teams are just for us to practice. If we keep winning, when we really face the strong in the future, we may suffer during this period of time. Everyone has basically gotten used to his way of speaking, and did not express any dissatisfaction with his clip tone, but seriously thought about what he said just now. Yu Xiaogang nodded and said, what Asan said is right. You are all monsters, and you are all strong. But team battles are not one-on-one battles. Team battles test cooperation more. These weak teams are indeed the best choice for you to hone your cooperation at this stage. Flanders continued. Then I hope the team I meet tomorrow will not be timid. Damu Bei said with his hands spread out. However, Oscar was right. In the team battle the next night, when the other team heard that the opponent in the team battle was the Shrek team, they chose to surrender without hesitation. The audience was even more furious. What the hell is this? Why do they always give up and admit defeat? The other team was scolded to death, and even their ancestors were scolded. Looking at these irritable audiences, Zhang Tianyu began to feel a little weak. Damn, the current opponent just gave up and admitted defeat, and was scolded like this. If they really meet someone who dares to fight in the future, and when Shrek wins, but Zhang Tianyu doesn't give the opponent a bloody end, will these audiences turn around and scold Shrek and Zhang Tianyu? After all, they came here specifically to watch Shrek's team battle, mostly to see the bloody end. Don't doubt it, if this is true, the audience will definitely scold you, said the system. Why do you sound a bit like gloating? Zhang Tianyu asked. Really? Haha, no, haha, really not, said the system. I don't believe you. Forget it, let's take it one step at a time. Anyway, Zhang Tianyu will never go for a brutal and bloody style. Let the audience scold. If they like to scold, just treat it as fart. Yes, whoever dares to scold will be given a bloody end, said the system. Pull out his spine and stew it like a human scorpion. Good guy. Zhang Tianyu exclaimed. What a guy. You are worthy of being my sister Tangzi. You are so ruthless, sharp, and social. However, this situation of winning without doing anything continued. 3 days, 5 days, a week, half a month. For 20 consecutive days, their team battles all won without doing anything. All opponents, without exception, chose to give up and admit defeat before the battle. There was even a team that could win 20 games in a row if it won, but it also gave up directly. It is conceivable that Zhang Tianyu's bloody end at that time caused a great psychological shadow to these teams in the fighting spirit field. Chapter 150 Yu Xiaogang's extraordinary performance. However, While they were winning the team battles without any effort, Yu Xiaogang's madness was getting worse. On the night when they won 20 games in a row without any effort, when the host announced that the winner of this game was Shrek team and that Shrek had won 21 games in a row, the audience no longer had the energy to scold those teams that gave up and admitted defeat. They also basically realized that no team would dare to fight Shrek easily. After all, 20 days had passed. 20 days. 20 different teams. None of them dared to fight Shrek. Too fierce. However, the most conspicuous person was not the Shrek team members who stood on the ring and won 21 consecutive victories, but Yu Xiaogang in the spectator seat. Oh yeah. Great yeah. We won. Ha. 21 consecutive wins. 21 consecutive wins. Ha. After saying that, in front of everyone, Yu Xiaogang once again took off his robe at lightning speed, waving it wildly in his hand like a flag. Before Flanders could stop him, Yu Xiaogang felt unsatisfied again, and untied his belt in public. Wow. His pants fell off on the spot, revealing his big shorts inside. Everyone was stunned. What the hell? Is it so exciting? Just take it off, and leave only the big shorts? Flanders and Xiao Wuji were once again stunned. They were completely shocked, and they didn't even think of holding Yu Xiaogang to stop him from being so embarrassing. Yu Xiaogang kept waving his robe and pants, shouting wildly, "Great. We won. Ha," and other such roars, and kept making excited monkey-like "oh" sounds, and even kept twisting his body, making all kinds of inexplicable movements that made people feel socially dead. "Master, what's wrong?" Daimyo asked. Everyone in Shrek was confused. "How the hell do we know what's going on? We should ask Tang San." Tang San was even more confused. Because Zhao Yulan and the other two thought it was embarrassing to stand with him, so he stood in the spectator seat on the other side. Now it seems that standing with Yu Xiaogang is even more embarrassing. After the initial shock, the audience soon became commotion. "Hey, who is that guy? No way. He took off his clothes and screamed when Shrek won the first game. He must be a fanatical fan of Shrek, otherwise he wouldn't be like this. No matter how fanatical he is, he wouldn't be like this. Yeah, he just took off his robe and exposed his chest before, but now he has taken off his pants and exposed his underwear. Fuck. Will he not wear underwear next? You stop talking, it's disgusting. It would be great if a beautiful woman was so unrestrained, but it's a pity that he is such an ugly old man. I heard that he is not a fan of the Shrek team, but seems to be the leader of Shrek." In the audience, no one knew who said this, and then the audience fell silent. A few seconds later, boom. Those audiences exploded. What? Fuck? Team leader? Is it fake? Good fellow. Shrek is such an awesome team, but it turns out to have such a crazy team leader? If this is really the team leader. TSK. I feel like Shrek's reputation has been ruined by this team leader. The Shrek team couldn't stand it anymore and quickly left the ring. However, the discussion in the audience not only didn't end, but became more and more heated. After leaving the fighting arena as quickly as possible, Flanders really stayed in Bengdu this time. He glared at Yu Xiaogang, who had already put on his clothes, and said in a deep voice, "What are you thinking about?" What? Yu Xiaogang was confused by the question. "Why did you do that?" Flanders asked angrily. "Yes, master, I don't think it's appropriate either," Xiao Wuji said. "What did I do?" Yu Xiaogang was very surprised. "Can you just stop pretending?" Flanders was speechless. How could this person be so good at pretending? He had done such an excessive thing before, so why did he lose his memory so quickly? Forgot everything? Why didn't I realize that this grandson is so good at pretending before? If it was a last life, Flanders and Xiao Wuji would have discovered something by now, because when he was affected by the consciousness confusion effect of the props before, Yu Xiaogang would not be aware of or notice that there was something wrong with him. But in this life, because the props generally have an additional memory fade effect, Flanders and Xiao Wuji think that Yu Xiaogang is really good at pretending. They don't think that Yu Xiaogang can't notice that there is something wrong with him, because they have forgotten. They won just now, yes, 21 wins in a row. I'm very happy too. Flanders paused and continued unhappily, but there was no need for you to take off your clothes and pants and wave them around with your hands. Aren't you ashamed to have your shorts sticking out? Yu Xiaogang was stunned. Flanders, what are you talking about? When did I take off my clothes and wave them around with my hands? When did I ever do such a thing? Then he added in a stern tone, how could I possibly do such a thing? Indeed, if it were a normal Yu Xiaogang, he would never do such a thing in his life. Can you please stop pretending? Flanders was angry. He really couldn't hold back his anger. How can you be so good at pretending? That's what you did when they won just now. So many people saw it. What? Is it possible that there's something wrong with our eyes and we saw it wrong? Xiao Wuji said at this time, Master, the dean is not talking nonsense. After you heard that they won 21 games in a row, they did take off their shirts and pants, and waved, and danced, and even screamed. Yu Xiaogang was so angry that he laughed, and shook his head and said, I don't know why you say such things to tease me, but please stop this boring behavior. Flanders was so angry that he was about to speak, but Xiao Wuji quickly pulled him, looked behind him, and said, the children are out. Flanders nodded, that's right. Come here. Zhang Tianyu, Dame Yu Bei and others walked to their side, all looking at Yu Xiaogang with a weird look in their eyes. Flanders said, look. The way they look at you says it all. Do you think he took off his clothes and danced after hearing that you won? I didn't do that. Yu Xiaogang remained calm and composed. Zhang Tianyu and the others looked at each other. Dame Yu Bei was the first to speak. Master, although I know this is not in line with your style, you did that just now. What? Yu Xiaogang was stunned. Yes, Master, you did that. Others spoke up one after another. Yu Xiaogang was stunned. I really took off my clothes and danced. How is this possible? Exclamation mark. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.